Good evening and welcome to all of you here at City Hall. We'll call this meeting to order. With us this evening is Minister Jared Kaimig of Ark Church to provide our invocation. Following that invocation, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we ask that you please stand for both.
Good evening. It is an honor and a privilege to be here this evening to open up in prayer with all you guys. Let's pray. Father, I come before you with thanksgiving and gratitude tonight. I honor your name, Lord, and I pray for divine wisdom and guidance for everything that happens in this room tonight. Every council member, every decision, Lord God, that your guidance is in it, Lord. I pray for your protection, your peace over everybody in this room, every council member, God, over their families, Lord God, your blessing, Lord God, in this place. I pray for that, Lord. I bring our first responders, Lord God, our police officers, our city workers, Lord God, before you. I pray for their protection and your blessing upon their lives and their families. And lastly, Father, I bring this city before you. I pray for prosperity for Wichita. I pray for, Lord God, peace, Lord God, safety for Wichita, that our economy would grow and that your favor would shine upon this city, Father. I pray all these things in the name that is above every name, the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Minister Jared. Madam Clerk, can you please call the first item?
Approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 22nd, 2025.
Are there any corrections to those minutes? I see none. I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting for July 22nd, 2025.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Awards and proclamations. Today's proclamations are Young Professionals Week and National Healthcare Center Week.
May I please ask the Chamber's W group to please come forward at this time.
It's going to take a while.
No, you're okay.
It's going to take a while.
I'll quickly remark that this seems to be one of our well-attended council meetings, so thank you all very much for being here this evening. I've also invited Councilmember Tuttle to come forward. She's one of the mentors for the W. The proclamation reads, "The City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas W, a community of young professionals, formerly known as Young Professionals of Wichita, was established in 2005 in response to the urgent need to attract, retain, and empower the next generation of leaders in a competitive talent marketplace. Whereas for 20 years, W has fulfilled its mission to create opportunities where young professionals are challenged to grow, lead, and build a thriving Wichita through purposeful networking, community engagement, and innovative programming. Whereas W envisions a Wichita that is recognized as a city of choice for diverse young professionals and forward-thinking organizations alike. Whereas the voices, talents, and dedication of young professionals are essential to the strength and future of Wichita, and W's enduring commitment to diversity, connection, leadership, and innovation has fostered a generation of change makers across our community. This 20th anniversary is not just a celebration of years, it's a recognition of progress made, lives impacted, and the ongoing work to build a city where all young professionals can thrive. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wichita City Council does hereby proclaim the week of August 3rd, 2025 as Young Professionals Week in the city of Wichita, and commends W, a community of young professionals, for its ongoing contributions to our city's progress and vitality.
Good evening, City Council and members of the public. My name is Julie Collier, and I'm chair of the Impact Team with W. As members of W and as young professionals across Wichita, we are proud to receive this proclamation on behalf of our city. In the early 2000s, the Wichita Regional Chamber of Commerce recognized the need to compete for and retain young professionals. And in 2005, the Chamber launched Young Professionals of Wichita, or YPW. Over the years, it provided opportunities for young talent to build their networks and skill sets for professional development. In 2019, YPW rebranded to become what is now known as W. This update signifies a modern and inclusive investment in Wichita's young professionals. Today, W has 4 diverse action teams that provide opportunities for over 1,700 members to grow their network through social activities, professional development, and civic engagement. Young professionals are the future of Wichita. We are proud to celebrate 20 years and are grateful for the Chamber and the city's continued investment in young talent. Thank you to every W and YPW member, past and present, for your investment in propelling young professionals in Wichita forward. Thank you to all of our volunteers and mentors who have helped develop YPs through our programs. We recognize the importance in helping build the next generation of Wichita and hope you join us in our ongoing work to build a city where diverse young professionals can thrive personally and professionally. Thank you.
Thank you once again to the W for coming here to City Hall and also providing a reception for the community to engage with young professionals. May I please ask anyone who is a supporter of national health centers to come forward, including Vice Mayor J.B. Johnston. The proclamation reads, the city of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas for nearly 60 years, community health centers have provided high-quality, affordable, comprehensive primary and preventative health care in our nation's medically underserved communities, delivering value to and having a significant impact on America's healthcare system. Whereas community health centers develop new approaches to integrating a wide range of services beyond primary care, including oral health, vision, behavioral health, nutrition, and pharmacy services to provide comprehensive care, allowing each patient to thrive. Health centers have more than doubled their behavioral health and workforce in the last decade to meet America's growing need for behavioral health services. Whereas community health centers are locally operated nonprofit organizations that serve as critical economic engines, helping to power local economies by generating $118 billion in economic activity and supporting more than 650,000 direct and indirect jobs nationally. Whereas the community health center model continues to prove an effective means of overcoming barriers to healthcare access, including geography, income, and insurance status, improving health outcomes and reducing healthcare system costs. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wichita City Council does hereby proclaim August 3rd through 9th, 2025 as National Health Center Week.
Thank you. I'm Amy Feimer, CEO of Hunter Health, and I'm joined by my colleagues from Health Corps and GraceMed as well, representing the community health centers in Wichita. On behalf of the community health centers, I'd like to thank Mayor Lily Wu, as well as the city council members, for this proclamation during National Health Center Week. Since the nation's first community health center was founded in 1965, community health centers have understood that where we live, work, worship, and play impacts our health. With roots in the civil rights movement, the visionaries who founded the earliest community health centers believed that we could fight poverty, empower communities with health and opportunity.
Hello, everyone. My name is Diego, and I'm here on behalf of GraceMed, and I just want to thank you. Today, community health centers play a vital role in enhancing access to essential primary care nationwide. We increase access to crucial primary care by reducing barriers such as cost, lack of insurance, distance, and language. In Wichita, the federally qualified health centers have been instrumental in serving over 80,000 individuals annually, providing a comprehensive array of services, including primary care, dental, behavioral health, vision, and pharmacy services. Every August, we seek to increase the awareness of the nearly 1,500 community health centers nationwide.
And I'm Davna Gould from Health Corps Clinic. This year, the theme of National Health Center Week is celebrating 60 years of progress. Community health centers in every state, U.S. territory, and the District of Columbia serve as a beacon of strength, service, and care in our communities by serving all, regardless of their ability to pay. As we celebrate our employees, board members, and supporters, we want to extend our heartfelt appreciation to Mayor Lily Wu and the Wichita City Council for their recognition and support of the significant contributions made by community health centers in Wichita. Thank you.
May I please invite Councilmember Becky Tuttle.
Thank you to my colleagues for allowing me to take a moment and recognize some of our wonderful early learning advocates. If I could have representatives from Child Start and then also folks who attended our Operation Care Connect early learning educators, please join us. Is there just one? Oh, here's another. All right, thank you. This is a really unique opportunity. Child care challenges don't stop at our city limits. They impact every corner of our community, including our military families, which sometimes we forget. Child care is not a woman's issue. It's not a family issue. It's a workforce and economic development issue, and it's a military issue. We often find that when our servicemen and women need to have training, especially in the evenings or weekends, it's extremely hard for them to be able to find childcare, meaning that then it impacts our national security. So on July 19th, airmen from McConnell Air Force Base, the City of Wichita Child Care Licensing Team, the Wichita Chamber of Commerce, Child Start, and 30 early learning child educators convened on a Saturday morning for a powerful conversation of how we can better support those who serve in our U.S. armed services. Operation Care Connect provides a unique opportunity to inform early learning providers on the need and process of how to care for military families. There's special requirements, there's special paperwork. You can imagine anything with the federal government. Sometimes being an early learning provider means, as I mentioned, they have to work, for military families, they're going to have to work in the evenings and weekends, which is a burden for them, and it takes away from their own families. So tonight, we're taking the opportunity to thank a few of the 30 early learning providers who attended the Operation Care Connect, and the certificate, and everyone will receive a certificate. We'll get the others to them. But the certificate reads, the City of Wichita, in recognition of, and I'll provide these to each of the providers, issues this certificate for the dedication and commitment to serving military families in our community. Their work as licensed early care and education providers ensures that the children of those who serve our country receive the support, stability, and care they deserve, leaving a lasting impact that honors both service and sacrifice. So thank you again to our providers. The first one who's going to receive a certificate tonight is Gigi's Child Care Home, and I've been there. It's a fantastic facility. Thank you very much. We'll take a picture at the end. And which one are you? Kids World. And the next one is for, some of our folks couldn't make it this evening, so let me grab it real quick. Kids World. The next one is Kids World Child Care Early Learning Center. Thank you. Appreciate it. And I'm going to ask Mandy with Child Start just to come up and say a few words, and then we'll get a photo. So thank you again to my colleagues for letting us make some special recognitions this evening.
Good evening. My name is Mandy Waugh. I am the Early Childhood Connections Program Director at Child Start. On behalf of Child Start and the child care community, I want to sincerely thank you for recognizing the critical role child care providers play in supporting military families. Your acknowledgement means so much, not only to the providers who offer stability and care during times of deployment or transition, but also to the families who rely on that support every day. This kind of recognition lifts up our providers and reinforces the importance of their work in strengthening both our military and our community. Thank you for your continued support and commitment to those who care for our youngest heroes.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item?
Public agenda. The public agenda allows for 5 speakers to have 5 minutes each to address the council. No action will be taken relative to items on the public agenda other than referral to the city manager for information as necessary. Speakers will please state their name and address for the record. A time clock will display the speaker's remaining time to speak. Order and rules of decorum will be observed. The first speaker for today is Mary Dean Delays.
Just sit there and raise your hand. Good evening. My name is Mary Dean. I've been here before many times. In May 2025, the City of Wichita's own Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights Advisory Board voted decisively to advance the reparations ordinance to the City Council for public discussion and a full vote. And yet today, Black residents remain in limbo. No agenda, no response, no vote. City leadership has chosen silence. City government has offered no clarity on when this measure designed to address systemic harm endured by Black residents will be brought forward. What we have heard, though quietly and cautiously, is that political fear now guides public decisions. City officials are afraid of losing federal and state funding under mounting pressure from the Trump administration, which is aggressively pushing to eliminate any connections to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. This fear now overrides justice, and it worked because the mayor and 3 other council members voted to eliminate the city's DCAB board. Business deals have been struck with just a handshake. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars continue to be spent on corporate ventures, some of which have failed to deliver promised results or community benefit. Projects aligned with developer interests face no delays, but proposals centered on racial equity, repair, and truth are shelved. Grassroots organizations doing real work on the ground are overlooked, while politically connected entities, those with long-standing relationships and access, are reportedly awarded city, state, and federal grants. This is not equity. This is an exclusion. The reparations ordinance calls for the creation of a formal commission to study the long-standing documented harms of systemic racism in Wichita, including racial wealth gaps and economic marginalization, discrimination in housing and employment, environmental injustice targeting Black communities, education inequalities within USD 259, structural disparities in healthcare access and outcomes. This is not a radical request. It is a civic necessity. The city's continued inaction signals that political self-preservation now takes precedence over accountability. As president of Kansas Justice Advocate, Inc., I demand that Mayor Lily Wu, the city council, city manager Robert Layton, and city attorney Jennifer Maglin answer a question that can no longer be ignored. When will this ordinance, endorsed by your own advisory board and vetted by the city attorney's office, be placed on the agenda? Delay is a decision. Silence is complicity. Justice for Black Wichita cannot hinge on campaign seasons, leadership transitions, or the political preferences of distant administrations. Put the ordinance on the agenda. Let the public speak. Let the truth be heard. Wichita's legacy will be defined not by what it avoids, but by what it is willing to confront. That's my statement. Any questions? Any comments? No questions, no comments. So just let me say this. I have jumped loops and hoops and everything else to comply with what I was supposed to do when it came to this ordinance. I've talked to the city manager. Am I not right? I've talked to council people. Am I not right? I've talked to senators and representatives, held town halls, did podcasts, and everything under the sun. Talked to the governor, visited other states that are more progressive than Wichita. Just had a visit with Tulsa, Oklahoma's mayor. Very progressive and very supportive of reparations. Kansas City, Missouri, another. These are just 2 states that surrounds or our neighbors. So you leave me no choice. My next steps, because it doesn't appear that you're interested when it comes to the harms that have been subjected to Black people in this city for decades, is to file a complaint with the UN Human Rights Commission for the harms that have been subjected by black people in this city.
Ms.
So the
Dean,
next people you
your
will
5
be
minutes
hear
is up.
from will be them. And I have a letter of support from Chum's Youth
Thank
that
you, Ms.
supports
Dean.
this.
Ms. Dean?
Yes,
You
I
have 5
understand my time. That's on your time. But you have taken a lot of my time for 2 years and not done anything. 2 years.
Ms. Dean?
You have delayed,
Ms. Dean?
distracted.
It's out of respect for everyone else also.
I am respecting everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Dean.
I have a
Ms.
letter
Dean?
of support.
Ms. Dean, can you
I
please
have a
take
letter
seat?
of support for what we're trying to do when it comes to the reparations ordinance in Wichita from the
Thank you,
youth
Ms. Dean.
of the
Ms. Dean,
College Hill
I will have to ask you to
United
please
Methodist
sit.
Church.
On behalf of this community, please be
I'm
respectful of
speaking
everyone's
for,
time.
I'm speaking for the community. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you please have a seat?
I'm speaking for the community.
I don't, there's a council member that would like to speak, but you have to sit down
Thank you.
in order for a
No,
council
I'm
member to
gonna
speak.
stand. I'm going to stand right here because I'd like to hear what the council person has to say.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I was just going to say I appreciate your continued fight for this issue. It's one that's important. It's one that I support, and it's one that I think should be addressed. Given some decisions that have been made, it probably won't be something that's considered by this body, at least through December 31st, but it is something that I think should be supported. If we look at the history of our city, third most redlined city in America, what that meant and the impact that it's had, it's a worthy thing to do. So I just wanted to say I appreciate you continuing to fight for it.
And I appreciate those words, Councilman, because it would appear that some of the members on this council, including the mayor, does not take in account on what and who paid the way for you to sit where you are right now.
Ma'am, can you please sit?
I will sit. If you want me to sit, please have somebody escort me out. I don't care. Because I
trying
feel
to
like
respectfully
I
ask
feel
you
like
to
I
sit.
feel like I have been delayed for a long time when it comes to what I was supposed to do in
City
making
Manager,
sure that
can you
this
please address
reparation
that?
issue is before this city. And you chose to delay it. Why? This council mandated me to go to the Diversity, Inclusion, and the Civil Rights Advisory Board. I did everything that I was supposed to do.
City Manager can address that.
Thank you, Mayor. No doubt this has been, we've worked with Ms. Dean for a period of time on this. I don't think it's news to anyone that things have changed in Washington in terms of the federal rules, regulations, and laws. Became even more clear last week when we received notice from the U.S. Attorney General's office that using race, sex, or other protected characteristics for employment, program participation, resource allocation, or similar activities, opportunities, or benefits is unlawful. It's never been made that clear to us by the administration. We were dealing with a lot of gray area previously, but right now that is clear that this council would, if they were to do something with the reparation ordinance as being asked, that would be in conflict with federal law.
You know, it's really kind of funny how you try to use that as a way to continue to distract and delay this ordinance. Because you
Ms.
have
Dean,
you
thank
have
you very
attorneys.
much.
You have attorneys on the city. What do they fight? What are they fighting?
I'll ask the city attorney to address this situation right here.
As far as the speaker and the time, there is an ordinance that provides 5 minutes per speaker, and it's to be enforced consistently.
Thank you very much, city attorney. Ms. Dean,
Well,
we'll
she
ask you
didn't-
to please
she
have a
didn't address
seat.
anything that I asked.
Ms. Dean,
City attorney,
out of respect
Jennifer,
for everyone who
what
is
is your
here in
job?
this room,
What do you fight for? You're not fighting for the citizens
may I
of
please
Wichita?
ask security to assist with the situation?
Call
Thank you.
security, I don't care. I really don't. because you have violated my rights when I filed a complaint against you, Mayor Wu.
Security's
Mayor,
here.
you may also
Thank you,
just-
Ms. Dean.
No, thank me. Thank the people who are more progressive around
Madam
the
Clerk,
country.
can you please call the
that's
next
doing
individual?
the best thing and the right thing for the people in their cities.
Michael Austin, citizen-led review of Wichita's budget and efficiency opportunities.
Thank you very much.
Not really.
Michael Austin, may you please come
Okay.
forward?
Who do I give this to? Mayor Wu? To who?
You may provide that to the city clerk.
City clerk? Thank you. Here you go. Thank you for your time, your wasted time, my wasted time, for coming to this body for over 2 years to do the right thing
Okay,
for the
Mr.
citizens
Mr.
of
Austin, you
Wichita,
may come forward to the
especially
microphone
the black
at this time.
residents of Wichita, Kansas.
And thank you, council members, for having me. I will do my best to stay within the 5 minutes.
Yeah, do that, honey.
My name is Michael Austin. I'm a resident of Lawrence, Kansas, and I am here on behalf of the Wichita Organization for Government Efficiency Exchange, or simply known as just the Exchange. We're a group of citizens, accountants, business owners, public figures, policy analysts, and more who have come together unpaid because we deeply care about this city and we want to help Wichita succeed. Tonight, we share with you our final report called Finding a Better Way, a citizen-led review of Wichita's budget and efficiency opportunities. It's the result of months of analysis, interviews, public record interviews, and community outreach. We also conducted a citywide survey, Wichita Resident Survey on City Budgets and Efficiencies, which received roughly 300 responses from residents representing every city district. The core of our report is built on a triple-track review. 1, an economic peer benchmarking review where we compare Wichita to cities of similar size and demographics to highlight potential areas of efficiency. 2, a vendor snapshot audit where we scan vendor payments and contracts for either inconsistencies, duplications, or potential savings. And 3, an economic development and contract oversight review where we look at the city's incentives, development deals, including those that we think fall short of performance standards. But we didn't just crunch numbers, we also asked residents for their input as well. About 300 Wichitans participated in our survey, and the first 3 questions we thought were very telling. We asked, where should the city look to find efficiencies to shore up the general fund shortfall? Most said consultant contracts, feasibility studies, or administrative overhead. We asked, should the city's automatic 2% annual increase to arts funding continue if the city faces a shortfall? Over 60% said it should either be eliminated, reduced, or temporarily paused. We asked, should Wichita solve its budget shortfall by raising taxes? Over 88% said efficiency measures should come first or concurrent with any tax increases. We don't believe that's ideology. We think residents are generally open to reform, just not at the expense of higher taxes. From arts funding to vendor oversight to economic development and downtown priorities, we learned a lot about what Wichita values and what it's ready to reevaluate. So, what can we do? Well, the last section of our report outlines 9 specific recommendations, from eliminating duplicate services to auditing vendor contracts to just rethinking incentive structures and prioritizing core city services. You'll find nowhere in our list of recommendations an advocate for cutting jobs or cutting programs. All of our recommendations are either a change in the processes or an enforcement of current processes. And we know that some of these ideas may spark debate, but that's the point. We hope that this effort inspires conversations and constructive conversations between city leaders and the people that they serve. In a moment, Celeste Reset will come behind me and she'll talk through the findings on economic development projects, including missed collections, incentive deals gone sideways, and areas where the city has taken on unnecessary risk. We will also, if we're willing, go through our vendor analysis and share why better contract enforcement and procurement practices could save the city millions. And we'll, of course, talk about how these reforms could avoid future tax hikes. We love Wichita, and that's exactly why we did this. We're not asking the city to do everything, but we are asking the city to do what it can, so that we can never again have to choose between broken budgets and broken promises. Thank you so much for this time. Thank you so much for your service to this city, and I would love to leave my remaining time and any other time you would allow for questions.
Thank you, Michael, and I know that there are several individuals that are going to come forward to speak regarding your findings. And again, this was not paid for by the City of Wichita. These are volunteers who decided that they wanted to help out with seeing some efficiencies in this community. And the community-wide survey was publicized on your social media outlets as well as through other individuals. Is that correct?
That's correct. Since we're all a diverse group of individuals, some are Democrats, some are Republicans, some are progressive, some are conservative, we all work through our own respective networks to get as many folks as we could to respond on this survey. If there is any selection bias, I would probably guess that the selection bias is that we have a lot of people who care about Wichita, because you'll see from the reports and our conversations that there are a lot of passionate opinions out there. And then yes, Madam Mayor, you are exactly right. We are sadly unpaid.
Thank you for your volunteer service. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate you, Mr. Austin. Just a quick question, just so everyone else who may not have seen the report knows, how many people took that survey?
We had roughly 300 respondents.
Okay, and then the one question I asked you, because I've had it asked to me a couple times, so you've already told me the answer, but can someone take that survey maybe like 70 times or so?
Technically, yes. So one thing that we did was we looked at our IP addresses of respondents. IP addresses, while they are specific, they're not necessarily individual to a person, they're individual to a network. So our thought process was we would allow 2 IP addresses, thinking that it could be a husband and wife on their Wi-Fi. But if it was over 2 IP addresses and we saw that maybe they only took 30 seconds to fill out this 5-minute quiz, then we removed it because we expected that was spurious. So we did what we can to try to make it as unique individuals responding to the survey as possible.
Cool, thank you.
Councilmember Glasscock.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael, thank you for your work on this. And I know that I had asked the public and to invite community members to engage in our budget process. Often we have very little engagement, and I'm glad a group of citizens, independent from me, selected themselves, organized this group in a bipartisan way, and I'm very thankful for your report. If even 1% of your recommendations are true, this could save the city $720,000 annually, or $720,000, even if 1% of your report is true. So I'm thankful for the work that you did and the bipartisan group did as well. And I specifically did not involve myself in this process because I want to be held accountable from this group and this organization as well. So thank you for caring about our community. I want to just highlight 2 different things in the report that, as you can tell, I have plenty of sticky notes. I haven't tried to engage, and if anybody in the community wants an update, I have a PDF version that had just been sent out that I would be happy to share as well. There's a quote on page 26 that I think is very important. Wichita residents expect transparency and measurable efficiency improvements before any increase in the financial burden on taxpayers is considered. And I appreciate this line. For policymakers, this provides both a mandate and a roadmap. Reform first, justify second. And I'm thankful that none of your recommendations were a cut of services to our community because we have a lot of things that are offered in our community. I also want to go to page 30, so when people look at this later, these are some of the recommendations offered by the group that I don't think are controversial and I don't think are political. And there may be some debate about which reforms should be made and which shouldn't, but some that I want to highlight include implement centralized purchasing, accounts payable, and receivable controls through the finance department. I met with the manager earlier today, and because of the budget savings that we did from this bench last year, we're going to be looking at proposals of that in the near future as well. Require competitive bidding for purchases over $50,000, no exceptions. I don't think that's controversial. Consolidate P-card and one-time vendors into formal contracts or duplication. I don't think that's controversial. Conduct quarterly reviews of contract utilization to flag over budgeting or underuse. I don't think that's controversial. And these are things we can debate from the bench one-on-one in the future as well. Enforce clawbacks within 6 months for underperforming developers. I think every single one of us from the bench have said that we need more clawbacks for underperforming developers. Require developer debts over $50,000 be disclosed in public finance reports. Prohibit deals with vendors or developers who are in litigation with the city. Publish an annual efficiency audit highlighting contract utilization, clawback enforcement, or compliance. I can continue to go on, but I'm thankful for those recommendations that I don't think are controversial to our public. And I appreciate your time and your effort in this, and I look forward to hearing from a couple other members of the committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Glasscock.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I too am always appreciative when folks get together to look into things for the city, whether it's budget or programs, whatever it might be. But I also want to highlight, while these were some of these were some really good suggestions, we also were already doing some of this work as well. And I won't go down that list, but I will say centralizing some of the finance work is something that the manager proposed 2 years ago. So it's good that this is happening, and it's good that people have made recommendations, but we also have been talking about some of these things as well. And it's great to see when those things align with groups that are doing that. But some of these things were also already being worked on by this body. So it's good to highlight all of that and not just it being led by this, because this has been talked about, some of these things, for some time now.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. That was our thought process as well in having conversations with the finance department. We wanted to provide either guideposts or recommendations that hopefully we thought were not going to be political or controversial. Now, of course, we can't affect every opinion. That's not necessarily our job. Our job is to present the report, and hopefully you take something from it and can act on it. But our thought process was, what are certain process changes can we make that you guys could politically easily adopt? So we wanted to keep that in mind. We didn't want to make it necessarily difficult for you. We wanted to give you low-hanging fruit. And fortunately, the general fund shortfall, while of course it is present, it is manageable. That I think with these process changes, you can shore it up.
Again, Michael, thank you very much. And I know that this PDF can be available to anyone who would like to see. Is that correct?
Yes, and we have physical copies here. After I head back to my seat, I'll be back, and if anyone wants a physical copy, just find me, and hopefully I'll have some left.
And again, thank you, Michael. I know that when people come to public agenda, oftentimes they have one specific thing that they want to talk about, and these are multiple recommendations, and so it would take, again, multiple conversations to get to some sort of conclusion or a step forward. But I appreciate, again, that a group of volunteers decided to spend time, look at our budget, and see what else could be improved so that it could be a more efficient government. And that's exactly what I see here in this room. More people attending a city council meeting, being engaged and caring. So thank you again for caring along with the other volunteers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the next individual?
Celeste Reset, Wichita 2026 Budget Savings Efficiency Study.
Good evening, Mayor Wu and City Council Member Celeste Reset. Thank you, Councilman Glasscock, for initiating this citizen-led review of Wichita's budget. I am actually very proud of the work this bipartisan Democrats, Republicans did. My focus in particular was on economic development, which is part 6 of the report. The hardest part of evaluating finances is lack of transparency. I have a bachelor's of science in accounting, was an FDIC bank examiner, and won awards for my fraud investigations. But getting answers from the city tested my ability. It is really hard drilling down on city finances. When I found a $23,000 past due water bill for the Stryker Sports Complex, I tried to search on the city's website for the signed contract but couldn't find it. I called economic development staff who told me to search on Google, but we couldn't find the signed contract there either. I had to file a KORA, a Kansas Open Records Act, and pay a fee to get a copy of the signed agreement. Contract documents should be searchable on the city's website. And when a problem is found instead of cooperation, sometimes pushback occurs. When I discovered these past due water bills for the Stryker Sports Complex, no one in City Hall checked to see if there were more. I had to file more KORAs and pay more KORA fees to find 6 years of water bills that had been erroneously paid for by the Parks Department. Tax increment financing districts, TIFs, have been misused. Kenmar developers received $2.5 million in taxpayer loans. When the loans became past due in 2020, 7 more taxpayer-funded projects were approved for these men, including the Riverside TIF, which gave $700,000 in taxpayer funds for a luxury patio home development. These developers, Dave Wells and Dave Burke, were also involved in the Ball Stadium deals. Please continue the lawsuit to recover $1.9 million and don't renew the Old Town Wichita Police Department lease. Community Improvement District, CIDs, are also a mess. Spot checks in June revealed missing CID tax notices and uncollected taxes in multiple areas. Delano Catalyst, Downtown Wichita, K96 in Greenwich, K96 Star, and Spaghetti Works CID, indicating a weak revenue management system. Some retailers are collecting the tax, some are not. Some post the required CID tax notice, some don't. There is no accountability. Economic development websites should post the CID revenue collected for each site on their website. There's a potential for probably $800,000 in missed sales tax revenue. Private management of public property is another area of lost revenue. Stryker Sports Complex is privately managed by the Wichita Sports Forum. Collect for those utility bills that were erroneously paid for by the Parks Department. Wichita Ice Rink Center was privately managed by Genesis Gym's Rodney Stephen. The city collected only one payment on a 10-year loan. Please continue fighting the lawsuit to recover $1 million. Tourism business needs to be competitively bid and offices moved into a public building. Tighten up funding to realize $2 million in potential savings. Visit Wichita Chairman Jim Corrick was given taxpayer funding for his Fairfield Inn Hotel. This debt was erroneously labeled as stormwater utility and debt payments were falsely labeled as being for convention center project. Pay this callable debt early and save $640,000 in interest. Taxpayers lost $13 million in Old Town parking garage revenue. Continue this contract review by internal audit. They're doing a great job. Taxpayers cannot afford upkeep for a no city park for a developer, Jay Russell. He should pick up the tab for the planned $9.5 million Crystal Prairie Lake Park as part of his own housing subdivision costs. When irrigation is turned off in our downtown park, A. Price Woodard, and flower beds are overrun with weeds, then it is apparent parks resources are stretched too thin. We cannot afford a $9 million new park on the northwest side of Wichita. Weak oversight has allowed developers to profit without repayment of debt. Public resources have been diverted in no-bid private management agreements, leaving taxpayers with infrastructure burdens. You can save $2 million next year just by ensuring compliance with agreements. You can save another $2 million by bidding out tourism services and putting tourism offices in a public building. If lawsuits are successful, another $4 million will be realized. Thank you for initiating this effort to improve city operations. This is a step in the right direction to restore trust in City Hall. I hope our hard work will inspire you to speak up and take action to implement best practices in the city. I will stand for questions. Thank you again. I loved working with this group of folks.
Thank you again, Celeste, and again, thank you to all the volunteers who helped with this report. Councilmember Glasscock.
Thank you, Celeste. I know there's a lot in this, so I'm not going to go over everything. There is one in particular that stands out that I just have a quick question about processes for the manager. Regarding CID tax compliance, compliance is handled by the state, correct?
That is correct.
What happens if we are aware of somebody being out of compliance? For example, I was at a business today that I know is out of compliance. How can citizens or how does staff let the state know that we're out of compliance?
We have to report it to the Department of Revenue, and they indicated to us they will do a follow-up with the business then.
Do we have somebody on staff that makes sure that individuals are in compliance, or is that just if somebody approaches us, then we go and we report to the state, or can individuals also report to the state if they see a business out of compliance?
At one point, we had a person who did occasional checks. That person is no longer with us, and we are training a new person to be able to do that. Signage is the first thing to look at. More difficult part is collection, and again, we have to rely on the Department of Revenue to get someone to actually collect.
There is a monthly report. that the finance department receives that has a list of all retailers. It wouldn't be that hard to compare the retailers that we're collecting tax from and the retailers in a CID, and have someone on your internal audit staff go after them and work with the State Department to start collecting.
I'll need to visit with staff. I'm not quite sure the level of information that the Department of Revenue shares with us, but we'll work on it.
Well, thank you. Celeste, thank you for the time that you spent on this. I know we met for an hour and a half or 2 hours talking about this report. I do want to particularly thank staff and the staff that have corresponded with community members and sent them information and sent them requests. And I also want to give a special shout out to our auditor for the city, Christina Rose, has done an amazing job. And I'm very thankful for her work. So thank you. I know this is the start of the conversation. Do you know if the group has sent the recommendations to the manager, the assistant city manager, finance? Have you received all the recommendations yet?
I didn't receive them directly, but council members have sent me the most recent version, which I think came out yesterday, maybe, if I remember correctly.
Thank you. And I know that we'll be working with staff on a lot of the recommendations and maybe getting some more information about particular items and doing a deeper dive.
We'd love to share information at any time with staff. It's been a very collaborative effort, and that's the first time I've seen this, so I'm very excited about this effort.
Awesome. Thanks, Celeste.
Yep.
Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question for Bob. Many people in the community probably don't know what CID is, or certainly what areas of town might have those. So besides a tiny sticker that they might not see, is there any, without going to the Wichita website, I mean, how would someone know to turn it in unless you're Celeste and know where they are or something like that? I mean,
There is, in the ordinance, there's a requirement that it be posted, that notice be posted, I believe, by the cash register, or it can be at the doorway, one or the other. So that's probably the simplest way for someone to learn. You said not going to our website, but our website does include information on all the districts.
okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Celeste. Thank you guys for coming up here today. I hear you when you guys talk about a lot of deals that have gone wrong in the past. The last couple of years, at least as long as I've been on council, we have been giving more scrutiny to it. We have hired an internal auditor. We've pivoted away from taking on debt, making sure a lot more of these incentives are pay-as-you-go. So we're going to continue to look at this, continue to look at ways to guard the taxpayers in the future. So I do appreciate that, and yeah, we're going to keep working.
I have a couple questions for the city manager, since a couple of things were specifically pointed out. Can you address the Stryker $23,000 past due bill?
Yes, Mayor. Actually, that's not a correct number. There was a delinquency. There was concerns about whether there was a leak in the system, and so the operator of the facility, Wichita Sports Forum, delayed payment until we could check the system, make sure it operated appropriately. That was been paid, and they are current on their account. There was an issue. There have been long-standing issues with the irrigation system that was installed in 2020, I believe, 2019, 2020. During the period of time when we were working to get the issues resolved with the contractor, we did take the bills because it was unfair to turn over a system to the provider that wasn't fully operational, that we were having problems with. Same time, we switched the turf from fescue to warm weather turf. And during that process, that was our decision, and we paid for those expenses. Once that was done and we turned the system over to them, the one thing that Celeste talked about that is accurate is that we were delayed in getting the billings to the operator for the period of time. There was about a 1 year period of time. There's about $8,500 in expenses that they will owe us as a result of that.
And now they are
Current.
current. Yes. When was the last payment then?
I think they resolved it last 30 or 60 days, if I remember correctly.
So I want to just point out, thank you, Celeste. She did point that out to us about 30 days ago, and we started asking questions, and I wanted to make sure that there was a resolution. Again, this is how the community knows about issues. Council members can point them out, community members can point it out, and then the city manager usually is the one that we funnel those questions to, and he gets to the bottom of it. So thank you, city manager, for that. One last one that I wanted to also address is the Old Town Police lease. Can you please address where we're at with that lease and also where we're headed?
Mayor, you and I have had multiple discussions about this. Technically, the lease is still in effect for about another year, until next summer, if I remember correctly. However, we have put the landlord on notice that we wish to move from that facility and do it before the end of the lease period. And we're working on making that happen. Now that we have control of the building that our traffic bureau is in, we have space for those employees. That's not meant to be a storefront location as we used to have when they were located in Old Town parking garage space. Now it's really just an office, and we can locate that almost anywhere downtown. And so we are in the process of working with the landlord to get out of the lease obligation.
Thank you again, city manager. And again, Celeste brought this up to us multiple times, and we did follow through and asked. This body actually decided to move forward with buying the central building, Central Police Station building, and so now there is space. So those individuals will now move from Old Town to the space that has been bought by the city of Wichita. So thank you again. We appreciate, again, when you bring up issues, we want to follow through and provide resolutions. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next individual?
Mayor, I was made aware right before the meeting that Deb and Pat Lucia are not available tonight, so we have 2 available spots.
Would anyone from the community like to come forward? You have up to 5 minutes, and you can address, you can move.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Lily Wu, members of Wichita City Council, and citizens of Wichita. I'm Denise Morawski of Southeast Wichita, and I'm speaking on behalf of Deb and Pat Lucia, who also worked on the Wichita budget team. Pat Lucia spent over 30 years in the chemical industry, 15 of them leading lean manufacturing initiatives. Deb Lucia spent 22 years working for the automotive industry as an industrial engineer, focusing on process improvement and lean manufacturing. The key to excellence in manufacturing, any industry or government, is standard processes, parts, procedures, and best practices. You've already heard from Michael Austin, who covered the overall report, and from Celeste Reset. Pat and Deb's focus was on vendor data. The City of Wichita's website lists 21 different departments. Multiple departments have additional divisions within them. When we looked at vendor data for the City of Wichita, we found there are no standardized procedures. There is no standardized sequence of events to follow for completion of projects. For example, departments have their own accounts payable, which could be a part-time or full-time role, and how invoices are handled varies by department. We could not find a consistent project management process. There are projects with change order after change order, and these requests are just accepted by the city, and we pay the additional costs. We could not identify who is responsible for making sure projects stayed within the awarded amount or pushed vendors to stay within the quote. Projects running over estimated bids in a significant part of the city's expenses. There is consistent overspending in the millions on awarded projects. Additionally, the city spent over $13.5 million on P cards, employee credit cards, for small or last-minute expenses. Some of these expenses should have been purchased through current bundled contracts at lower costs. Government should always be looking to be better, be more efficient and more effective to improve the quality of life for Wichitans. We believe the City of Wichita needs standardization, Standardization is the basis for continuous improvement. Standardization of processes eliminates redundant work and makes identifying refinement opportunities much easier and makes it easy to see when things are out of order or line. We do not mean eliminating redundancy and inefficiencies equates to eliminating people. People resources can be trained or moved to address other immediate issues, such as ensuring projects are delivering promised results. Costs are managed and contained, and vendors are held accountable for providing acceptable service on time and within budget. While standardization and reallocating resources requires change that can be challenging, doing so would address shortfalls uncovered by our study. The city also needs to hold vendors and employees accountable. Someone has to be responsible and accountable for watching the processes and financial outlays to make sure our tax dollars are being spent wisely and on the services we need and expect. Implementing standardization will address contract inefficiencies, procurement inconsistencies, vendor consolidation opportunities, and areas lacking competitive bidding. Finally, providing the much-needed accountability and oversight. We are optimistic that the City of Wichita can improve its processes, and we believe Wichita can be a leader in the state at becoming an efficient and effective city government that others will want to emulate. Thank you. Deb and Pat Lucia.
Thank you. Councilmember Glasscock.
Thank you, Mayor. Specifically to Councilman Johnson's point, just a quick question for the manager. Can you talk about accounts receivable, accounts payable, what we did last year to set ourselves up for trying to centralize those services?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember. We recognize that we had an opportunity to tighten up our procedures and also potentially save money by consolidating or centralizing our accounts payable and accounts receivable. I think we'll be in a better position when that is taken, when we implement that new process. The council had us look at that last year at the end of after the budget process was over. We did that work over the winter and made that recommendation to the council. And in fact, next week, we'll bring to the council a contract for assistance in having us implement that in terms of what the reorganization will look like, not just in finance, but throughout our organization to make sure that we have proper financial oversight in every department. And so you'll see that next week.
City Manager, in this recommendations portion, it's specific to procurement and vendor oversight. One of those areas that was mentioned was require competitive bidding for all purchases over $50,000, no exceptions. Can you address that?
Actually, I'm going to ask Mark Manning to talk about that.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Mark Manning, the Department of Finance. Our city code right now, section 2.64, I believe, does basically require competitive processes for any purchase over $50,000. Now, there are exceptions in city code in certain areas. For example, if it's a sole source provider or if it's a security concern. So there are a few exceptions, but generally speaking, procurement in the city of Wichita over $50,000 is competitive. And it's competitive under $50,000 for that matter. It's just a slightly different process.
And I will note that those exceptions that Mark's referencing, that has to go through an approval process. Department cannot unilaterally say that they have an exception and follow a process that's not competitive. That has to be approved by, at least by the Finance Department.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next, oh, actually, we have one more spot for anyone who would like to address the council.
Good evening, John Whitmer. I live in District 4. Councilman Glasscock's my council member. I know a number of you. I've disagreed over the years with a number of you. Surprisingly, I've disagreed with a number of the people on this very committee. I'm a registered Republican. I'm the chairman of the Sedgwick County Republican Party and a conservative talk radio host. And yet, Henry Helgerson, who's a Democrat, and Celeste, who's a Democrat, and I came to common ground on many issues on this report. And I'll tell you why. When we looked to build this report, we came to a consensus, and it came from something rather interesting that we found. Since 1997, property tax revenue has increased by the City of Wichita property tax revenue has increased by 228%. That's more than double the combined rate of inflation and population growth. Just since 2019, property tax collections are up 41%, or nearly $48 million. And so when we came together to kind of present this to you, we wanted you, and I know you all know this. I know everyone up here has knocked doors like I have. You know people are suffering. You know people are struggling to make ends meet. We just wanted to provide you a resource. I've been an elected official. I know it's hard sometimes to find cuts. And so we wanted to try and provide you some cuts. Some of these are hard. Some of these I wouldn't make. And you know I would make a lot of cuts. There are some here that I probably wouldn't even do. You don't have to do them all. But there are some that are low-hanging fruit. There are some that might be easy. There are opportunities here that you could find, that we hope you might be able to find, to make cuts to the budget so that you don't have to raise taxes again. And I think that was our goal in all of this, was to provide you a resource, something that you could look at and say, hey, here are some ways that we can cut our budget and cut our spending and not have to go back to the Wichita taxpayers who are frankly taxed enough already. And that was our goal. That was the only thing we were hoping to do. We wanted to present this to you as a resource. Whether or not, and I loved what Dalton said earlier, even if 1% of this is accurate, then that's $720,000 that you can find in cuts. I hope we've been able to provide you a little bit of resource information, and for that, I'll stand for questions. Michael's the expert here. I'm more of a policy guy, but thank you for your time. And that's the other thing I wanted to tell you. I wasn't able to sit down with a few of you, but I want to thank the staff for their willingness to work with us, and for every one of you for being able to sit down and willing to meet with every one of us. We appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. I see no further comments. I'll just close out by simply saying thank you again to people who care about our community, people who donated their time to research, donated their time to put together a report, and donated their time to come here today and make a decision to speak during the 5 minutes and then have council members ask questions of you. We appreciate that. That is what public agenda can be used for, and we appreciate, again, the volunteerism that people in our community choose to make, and it's really to invest in our community and make sure that we are a great community and a local government that can be held accountable and is transparent. And so I do encourage people to look at the wichita.gov website. On multiple departments, you can see a tab that talks about transparency, whether it's the Wichita Police Department's transparency portal, to even the City Council and the transparency of our travel. There are more transparent ways that we're trying to communicate with the community about how government works. And again, we work for you, the people. And so we appreciate when the people bring suggestions and recommendations. And I'm really grateful that Councilmember Glasscock just called out individuals and said, who would like to create something? And he just put it out to the community, and to see the individuals come together, as you have mentioned from that microphone, bipartisan. Really grateful that you wanted to just look at the numbers and provide some recommendations. So again, thank you for your volunteerism. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item?
Consent agenda items 1 through 14.
Are there items to be pulled? Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull item 2-4B and delay that until the August 19th regular meeting. I just want to make sure that all council members have time to get all pertinent information regarding this item.
Item number 2-4B to be delayed with no comment or with comment. I know that there are several individuals here that wanted to speak on that item.
On this particular item?
we'll ask City Attorney Magana, if we pull an item for delay, do we just pull the item without comment, public comment?
If the intent is to defer it to a second meeting or later meeting, it needs to be voted on as a deferral, if that was the intent.
Is that your intent, Councilmember Hoheisel?
To delay it till the 19th? Yeah, that's fine.
We'll need a motion.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Hoheisel
Yep, move.
and a second from Councilmember Johnson. And then I see we can vote on just that item, number 2, 4B.
Point of clarification, are we still opening it up to public comment, or are we just motioning to defer from the start?
It looks like the intention was just to delay it, so no public comment.
Quick question for the attorney. If I were to vote no, just because there could be public comment on this motion, and if somebody's here in an evening meeting, I'm interested in hearing what they have to say, would that fail? So if it comes back, would we have to take it up or down, vote on it this evening, or could there be a motion to table after that subsequently?
Let me make sure I understand. If it fails to get enough votes to be deferred,
Correct. And so if it fails to get enough votes to be deterred, we open it to public comment. Would we have to vote on it tonight, or would we be able to motion to defer following public comment?
no, I think you've already made that motion and it's failed, so I think it has to be voted on tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. Legal, Jennifer, could we, if we vote on this, could we make another motion to allow public comment after it is delayed for public comment tonight?
If it's not an agenda item before you, there won't be public comment. That's not really provided for in the ordinance if you're not taking it up for consideration tonight.
Okay, can I make a substitute motion to allow public comment
On the motion to defer,
on the motion to defer?
yes.
Okay, I'll make the motion to allow public comment before we vote on the motion.
Second. Oh. Second by Councilmember Glasscock. So we have a substitute motion which takes the precedent. So Councilman Vice Mayor Johnston and Councilmember Glasscock, we can put that to vote.
Wish people would have said something ahead. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do that.
I think we still have to vote on it. Oh, Councilmember Johnson, sorry.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. So the motion is to defer, but the substitute motion is to allow public comment. To defer and allow public comment. Okay.
Motion passes 7-0, which now allows the opportunity for public comment on item number 4B. Would anyone from the community like to speak on this item? I see none. No one wants to speak on this item? Okay. Okay, we will move on. I move to approve the consent agenda without item 24B.
Excuse me, Mayor. The underlying motion, it goes back to the motion to defer now.
My apologies. We're now back to the original motion from Councilmember Hoheisel, seconded by Councilmember Johnson, to defer this item to this August 19th meeting. Motion and a second. No, nobody else? Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion is now deferred to the August 2nd meeting, passing 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item. Actually, sorry. Now I can go to my motion. I move to approve the consent agenda without item 24B.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Board of Bids and Contracts dated August 4th, 2025.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Josh Slauber, Department of Finance. The Board of Bids and Contracts convened August 4th, 2025 for the following recommendations. Before I start off, I need to rescind this recommendation. This item had a low bid that was withdrawn by the bidder, so I was not able to catch this before I presented it to the advisory board. We'll be rescinding this to bring it back to you for a full rejection because none of the bids are within the engineer's estimate. So this item will be pulled. For engineering, we have the stormwater system number 808, 2025 Stormwater Ditch Grading and Culvert Cleaning Program for Dutton Construction Services LLC for an aggregate bid total of $184,343. We have the 2025 Outsourced Pavement Preservation Program CIP Concrete Street Repairs Phase 6 for PPJ Construction Incorporated for an bid awarded within the engineer's estimate of $330,000 from the original bid of $299,754. We have the 2025 Outsourced Pavement Preservation Program CIP Concrete Street Repairs Phase 7 for PPJ Construction Incorporated for a bid within the engineer's estimate of $365,000 from the original bid of $315,754. For purchasing, we have the snowplow blades, nuts, and bolts for the vendors listed at the estimated annual usage. We have the kitchen remodel for Fire Station 14 for Multicon Incorporated for an aggregate bid total of $129,481. We have sodium hypochlorite for Laugh T. Williams and Associates Incorporated for an estimated annual usage of $522,808.55 for 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew. We have liquid ferric sulfate for Penco Incorporated for an estimated annual usage of $215,070 for 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew. We have the kitchen equipment for Brewer Community Center for AAA Restaurant Supply LLC for $229,780. We have the 16,000 gross vehicle weight cab and chassis with mini dump bed for Rustiek Ford for an aggregate bid total of $254,422. We have the video surveillance systems Botanical parking lots for Santa Fe Engineering and Controls Incorporated for $78,333.78. The exemption to competitive bidding under a sole source of supply. We have the Laserfish annual software renewal for governmentframeworks.com Incorporated for $130,608.25 under the exemption for competitive bidding under high technology. We have the multi-band portable radios for Holman Electronics LLC for $63,909.59 under the competitive exemption to competitive bidding of high technology. We have the NeoGov Human Resource and Application Tracking System Annual Software Renewal for Government Jobs Incorporated for $77,551.23 under competitive exemption for bidding under sole source of supply. We have Boreline Flexi Riser hoses for Hose Solutions Incorporated for $73,095.39 exemption to competitive bidding under sole source of supply. And we have the trash and recycling containers and collection contract change order for the change of estimated $1,974.48 per month per year estimated annual cost. We have the pre-employment physical examinations and substance abuse screenings for contract change order of Work Safe Physical Therapy Incorporated, requesting the authorization to accept additional rates. And for airport, we have the Airport Multitasking Snow Removal Vehicles, M-B companies, for an aggregate bid total of $2,034,883.72. We have the high-speed rotary snowplow vehicle for M-B companies for a base bid of $895,730. We have the airport terminal modifications for McCown Gordon for $5,501,483. We have the window cleaning services for EH Technical Solutions Incorporated for an estimated annual usage of $25,205 for 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew. This is how to become a vendor with the City of Wichita. This is our purchasing calendar of events with our small business resource partners that the city will be hosting or participating in. This is our calendar of open public opportunities out on the street today for projects. And I'd be happy to try to answer any of your questions, and I recommend your approval of the recommended.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions for staff? I see none. I move to approve the Board of Bids dated August 4th, 2025.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Petitions for public improvements.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, Paul Gunzelman, Public Works and Utilities for the record. I have a few new petitions as well as one revised petition for your consideration tonight. The signatures on the petitions represent 100% of the improvement districts, and the petitions are valid per Kansas statute. Turkey Creek, 4th edition, located in District 4. The projects will provide water improvements, sanitary sewer improvements, and paving improvements for a new residential development for multiple phases. Schulte Johnson, 2nd edition, again located in District 4. The project will provide drainage improvements required for a new residential development and to cover the cost of a private bid. And revised petitions, Schulte Johnson, 2nd edition, located in District 4 on September 22nd, 2020, and February 25th, 2025, the City Council approved water improvements, stormwater improvements, drainage improvements, and paving improvements required for a new residential development and to cover the cost of a private bid. The developer has submitted revised petitions with revised budgets to reflect current market conditions. And it is recommended that the City Council approve the new and revised petitions and budgets, adopt the new and amending resolutions, and authorize the necessary signatures. And Mayor, I might remind folks that these will be paid by special assessments.
Thank you, Paul. Questions for staff? I see none. I move to approve the petitions for public improvements.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Contract for executive search services for city manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pam Pennington, Human Resources. So I'm here this evening to present the contract for the firm to conduct the city manager search, and want to just go through a couple of slides with you. I will tell you that getting to work with this selection advisory committee already has been wonderful. They are very dedicated citizens wanting to be very involved in this process, so that has been wonderful. And we are in the process of, we've done our chair nominations and selection, and Jennifer McDonald has been selected by this committee to be the chair. So she is here with me this evening, and I'll have her come up in a few minutes. We are currently trying to do vice chair, but some of them are on vacation, so we will get that finished as soon as possible. So we have been busy as a group, and this is just a quick rundown of the timeline so far. 20 RFPs were received by the city for firms wanting to have an option to do this search for us. I think that's kind of unprecedented, and it was quite great to have that many that were interested. June 27, the Selection Advisory Committee did receive those 20 and started their review of every one of them. On July 9th, and I've abbreviated it as SAC, so excuse me for that, shortlisted those firms down to 3 that we would conduct interviews with. On July 21st is we held the interviews, and the committee unanimously selected CPS HR Consulting. July 22 through 30th was spent preparing the contract and having legal review of the contract. And then we are here this evening to bring this contract to you for approval. So why CPS HR Consulting? So I'm not going to do this part of the presentation. I've asked Jennifer McDonald to come tonight, and she is here. So I'm going to let her, as the new chair, give her comments.
Thank you, Pam, and good evening, Mayor and City Council. So I'm Jennifer McDonald, the newly elected chair for the selection committee, and I just wanted to share some comments around why we selected CPS HR Consulting. So after thorough evaluation of the proposals and interviews, we did select CPS HR Consulting as the most qualified firm for the city search of a new city manager. And I kind of narrowed it down to 5 key reasons. So the first one is just their proven experience and expertise. So they bring over 40 years of experience in the recruitment field, including 25 years specializing in public service agency searches, which I thought was really key. Their team is led by a former city manager, which I thought was important for them to really understand that deep understanding for the unique challenges faced by city governments. The second reason is their strong track record of success. So they have high success rates within city manager searches with a 95% retention rate, which I thought was really strong. Their strategic approach ensures that candidates not only meet the technical requirements, but also align to the culture and values of the city, which I thought was very important. The firm has demonstrated consistent success in placing candidates who stay in the role for 5 to 7 years, which we also thought was key for that retention and longevity. So the third reason is their comprehensive and transparent process. So the firm's recruitment process is robust and transparent, emphasizing thorough citizen and stakeholder engagement. So we thought the citizen engagement piece is going to be really important. And their approach includes information gathering, a detailed candidate profile, and a pre-screening process to ensure that only the most qualified candidates are considered, which we thought was key. And then the fourth reason would be kind of client satisfaction and ongoing support. So CPS HR Consulting's commitment to client satisfaction is evident through their ongoing evaluation process, which includes check-ins with clients 6 months after placement to ensure satisfaction. So this continued support is critical in maintaining a positive working relationship and ensuring that the city's needs are fully met for the long term. And then lastly, they have a competitive cost structure. So their fee structure was very competitive, and it also guaranteed a 1-year guarantee. So just making sure that we have the right candidate and the right placement, and it was competitive compared to the other firms that we interviewed. So in conclusion, CPS HR Consulting proven experience and comprehensive, transparent process makes them the most qualified firm to conduct the city manager search. Their track record of success, combined with their ability to engage stakeholders and citizens, and providing ongoing support, will assure that the city's needs will be met and the best candidate will be presented to you all for consideration. So therefore, our selection committee highly recommends CPS HR Consulting. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Pam.
Good question.
Can we ask the city clerk to please clear the board?
I don't have any way to clear the board. I don't show that there is any speakers.
We'll start with Councilmember Glasscock.
Thank you, Mayor. Pam, I just have a few quick questions for you. I'm going to be supportive of this, and
Sure.
I want to thank Jennifer. Thank you. Congratulations on your leadership role now, and appreciate all the work that you've done. I've spoken with my appointee about this, Josh Shorter, and he was also very much in favor of this. There was one quick contractual question I had. So our green sheet said that they have the ability to meet this by the December 1st deadline. I went back just on the document on page 19 of their proposal. It lists like month 1, month 2, month 3, and month 4. And it lists the appointment at the end of month 4, which would be November. And we're already, 7 days into August. And so are you still confident about the timeline of December 1st being met, or should that be revised?
So far, they are confident. We will meet with them tomorrow, hopefully, if this goes well this evening, to confirm that.
Okay.
But they are very confident.
Okay, so a continuation of that question too, on page 2 of the contract, it talks about the term. It says the term of the contract shall be effective from the execution of the agreement for 1 year. In the green sheet, it also talked about that if for some reason a candidate had to resign in the first year, then they would still be on call. Does that term length cover it beginning on December 1st, 2025 when they select a candidate? Or does it begin on August when they've started the process? When does that 1 year term of this contract
From
begin?
date of hire.
From date of hire, so August 1st, so through August 1st next year.
No, it would be the date the candidate is hired.
Oh, the day the candidate is hired.
Yes.
So through December, whatever. Okay.
Correct.
I think there was one small thing I just had to, and you're answering all my questions very well. So thank you for that. On page 20, they had listed a $5,000 budget for reimbursement for candidate travel. I know on the first page, we had talked about it lists as an estimated of $2,500 per candidate. But in the proposal, it said that we want them to give us 6 to 10 candidates. So can you just explain that?
Sure. 6 to 10 candidates for the first semifinalist group, and then we would select those that would come on site from the 6 to 10.
Probably 2 to 3 theoretically.
Correct. So in our proposal, it was, we pay for the travel. We would not ask the firm to do it. That's a little steeper than what we would usually do. So we've estimated 4.
Okay.
That at the high end, it would be 4 candidates that would come on site.
Awesome.
Just from an estimate.
Thanks for answering all my questions. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, if I
Yeah.
could, just a second. I think if you push on the floor on your panels, that'll get you back to where you need to be.
That's not up at this time.
I don't have it.
You don't have that on yours?
No, it
Okay.
just says voting in progress.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, yeah, thanks, thank you. Just one quick question, more it's on process. Under the scope of services, it has interview, participation, and public forum. At what point will we be giving kind of our desires? I know we want robust public engagement, especially with neighborhood people and people who have vested interest in seeing, the Access Advisory Board or people like that as well. So what point in the process will we be getting that or
Sure.
having that input?
So the first meeting we will have with them, they will go through all of that with us, and then I think their very first call is to meet with all of you.
Okay, and then does that have to be a majority of council in order to direct for a certain amount of public meetings or a certain designated group that we want to necessarily attract to those meetings?
I think what the vendor will do is give us multiple options because they have multiple ways of doing citizen engagement, and we can identify which way we want to go for certain groups or how we want to do that as a whole, whether it's a public forum, a survey, stakeholder meetings, however we want to do it, we get to decide, but they're going to tell us their best practice and what works the best. And then we can decide what works best for us.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam, for your work on this. Really appreciate it. I also want to thank Jennifer so much for being my appointment. You served on my DAB. I knew you were a fantastic representative and so appointed to this, and now you're chair. So congratulations. I also just want to thank the committee in advance. I know that we have a timeline that we have to meet, right, to be able to have someone hired by the end of the year. So I wish you all the best and looking forward to being involved in the process. So congratulations, Jennifer.
Vice Mayor Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few questions. You said 95% retention rate. What period of time is that 95%?
I believe it was over a 2 to 3 year period.
2 to
So
3
far,
year.
they've got 95% retention.
Okay. To follow up on Councilman Glasscock's question. You stated that was the date of hire. I presume if it's a city manager, they'll have to give X number of days notice. So would it be the date of hire or the start date that the year would begin?
Those are the same thing for us.
Same thing,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, the day that they are sitting in the office chair.
In the office, okay, not the date that we announced.
No, not
it.
that we presented a contract. No, it would be the actual date they're
Actually
here.
start the hire, okay, thank you. And last question is, you said if the candidate resigns within the first year, I don't think it'll happen, but what
put
if
that
the
out
council
there.
doesn't want the services of that person within the first year? Does that count too?
Yes,
Okay.
1-year guarantee.
1-year guarantee on both sides?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
that was another benefit.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question for Jennifer. Again, congratulations on becoming the spokesperson and chair of this committee. Can you give us a little insight in regards to the interviews? But more specifically, the question would be, this firm obviously got unanimous approval by the committee. And one of the things I looked at on pages 5 and 6 are the roles that they have helped hire. They have helped with the 2 assistant city managers of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And one of the reasons why you mentioned this firm was selected among the 5 reasons was their familiarity with the region, meaning the Midwest, Heartland. Can you address maybe some of those questions that were asked during that process that helped them become the actual recommendation?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did ask about their experience working with cities our size and within our region. And so they actually helped fill the Arvado, Colorado city manager position, which we thought was impactful. A little bit farther to our west was Sacramento, but that was going to be somewhat similar size or a little bit bigger than Wichita. But they felt like they had ties to the Kansas and Wichita kind of community and were familiar with the culture and the values that we have as a city. So they felt really good about finding a candidate that aligns to those values.
Thank you, Jennifer. I see no further questions for Jennifer or Pam.
Okay, we have a couple more slides if you're okay with that. Because I think we do want to address the city size issue, because I know that was something Brandon Johnson brought up when we were doing the RFP. And so this was a big piece for us because a lot of the firms had city manager roles, but they were in much smaller populations. And so we felt very good about their experience in at least our size or at least bigger. So I think they understood the role of city manager very well. So I just wanted to point that out for you as well. And then they have a really interesting approach. It's a very good approach, and what really stood out, I think, from the interviews was they very much understand your role in this process. And so they were very excited about getting to work with all of you, but they very much understood that. So that was a big piece for them on the mayor and council stakeholder involvement. And then the city's needs. They have a unique process. They wouldn't divulge all of it to us about helping us define what does this look like. And so I think that's going to be something when we did reference checks. We did get a reference check from Phoenix, Aurora, Colorado, and Oklahoma City. And what was very interesting was they all talked about this process, and in fact, all of them have now hired at least 5 additional positions using this same firm. So that was a great bonus for me to know that they keep being reused at the same cities over and over. So I think that's going to be very good for us in the process. They are very high communicators, so that was the number one thing that came through on the reference checks as well. And they really talked about their robust recruitment process. So that's why I think they can feel comfortable meeting the deadline. And then community stakeholder engagement was a big part of the conversation in the interviews because that is very important to us, and they were very excited to get to do that. So there are 3 phases, which I think you've seen in the proposal, but just for purposes of this evening, phase 1 was when we start the key stakeholder process. Phase 2, they will then tailor the process to fit us and to meet our deadline. And then phase 3, they will continue to work with mayor and council for a customized interview and selection process. So it's going to be fast once it begins, but it's a very well-defined process. And then kind of at the last is the timeline and the cost is, it is a 14 to 16 week process. So if we started effective Monday, that would get us to November 24, if all goes well. It is a flat fee of $30,000, and it includes everything, with the exception of possibly if we decided we wanted to do additional paid advertising somewhere else, that would be on us. But they've already got what they would like to do, and they'll get us that for review. But it will, that would be an additional cost. And then we put in 4 people coming on site at $2,500 for a total estimated cost of $42,000. So our recommendation is to have council approve and execute the necessary signatures for CPS HR Consulting as the selected vendor to conduct the city manager search.
Thank you, Pam, and again, thank you, Jennifer. I see no further questions from this bench. We will now open it up for public comment regarding this topic. I see none. I'll bring it back to the bench. I will move to approve the contract with CPS HR Consulting for executive search services for the city manager position and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Osage Park improvements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Reggie Davidson with Parks and Rec. Here today to talk with you about Osage Park improvements. Want to give a little bit of history on the background on this. The National Fitness Council, NFC, is a wellness consulting firm that provides the fitness court and outdoor fitness facility enclosed within a small footprint. On November the 7th of 2023, City Council approved the funding and installation of a fitness court at Pat Garcia Veterans Memorial Park in District 6. Data acquired from that MSC indicates that Pat Garcia Fitness Court was well received in the community and usage level were above national average. So Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas is the sponsor of the Kansas Fitness Court Network and offered a $40,000 grant for NFC towards the second fitness court here in Wichita. Department of Parks and Recreation recommend a discounted price for NFC, and Park and Rec has selected Osage Park as a location for the second fitness court. Osage Park is 18.45 acres neighborhood park with a variety of amenities, which include a softball field, basketball court, tennis and pickleball court, a splash pad, a playground, and has a former rec center that's currently being operated by Catch for programming for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Adding a fitness court to this park would add to the hub of amenities available to South Wichita residents. And for the financial considerations for this, the price for the fitness court is $170,000, which will be offset by a $40,000 discount provided through NFC grant from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas. And staff recommend the approval of the agreement with NFC in the amount of $130,000. Funding is available in the Pawnee Prairie Park Improvement Project account, which was initiated from the 2024 to 2033 Capital Improvement Program. And legal considerations and recommended action. The Law Department has reviewed and approved the purchase agreement as to form. The Law Department has concluded that a reasonable basis exists for the procurement to proceed as a sole source election under Section 2.62.020B of the Municipal Code. and it is recommended that the City Council approve the purchase and order agreement and authorize the necessary signatures. And I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Reggie. We'll begin with Councilmember Glasscock.
Thank you. Only a few questions, Reggie, and thank you for this presentation. Regarding the Pawnee Prairie budget, it was $800,000 to start, correct?
That is correct.
For security enhancements, and we've been under budget on one of the projects, which is demolition of the pavilion. Do you remember how much that was?
Sure. So we initiated $400,000 that was in the budget for 2024, and there's currently $300,000 that's left over from that particular budget, and this portion of the 130 for this particular project will come from that, which will leave an additional $170,000 in that budget. And then an additional $400,000 will be initiated for the upcoming, this current year, that will be available as well.
And then additional funds we use to repair the flooring at the Osage Center as well.
That is correct. So part of the funding that was initiated in 2024 was used for a flooring project at Osage Rec Center because it was in disrepair and a safety concern. And then the demolition cost was the other cost that we're using as part of that funding source.
Well, thank you for being a good steward of the dollars, and now because of the enhancements we made at Pawnee Prairie, we're able to do enhancements at other parks in South Wichita as well. Specifically, I know Councilman Hoheisel's on the board as well, but given that this is a former recreation center, I think this is another amenity in the South Side, and I know I was at the opening with Councilmember Ballard of the Pat Garcia Park, and it's been, today I drove by, and there are people using it today, and I've driven by multiple times, and every time I drive by, somebody's using it, and so I think it's a needed amenity in this area, especially with the aging population in the neighborhood. So thank you for the time on this, and thank you for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas for also stepping up to help and partner with this.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Reggie. Just couple of quick questions. First, I love Osage Park. It's I used to go swimming there all the time, play baseball there all the time. So I'm really happy to see this going in over there, another amenity down there. Has there been any issues as far as equipment maintenance or anything at the Pat Garcia Park over the last year or so?
They haven't. We actually looked into that. It was part of one of the requests that the mayor had previously as well. And we had two incidents that was there. One was graffiti that we addressed, and then the other one was a piece of equipment. And we found that it was there on site and it was reinstalled. So the location has been really well used. It exceeds the national average of number of participants that are there on a daily basis. It goes at 500 is the national average, and we're at 630. So we're exceeded what the average is for uses at that particular location.
Sounds good. And if you guys need a name, I'm obviously the picture of fitness, so the Mike Hoheisel Fitness Center would be fine as well. Thank you, Reggie.
Reggie, I actually asked those questions also regarding the number of visitors, and you just answered that. Can you also address the two questions I asked, which were what was the cost of investment by the nonprofit versus the city of Wichita regarding Pat Garcia?
So with that particular project, the project is it's $170,000 is what we're paying for the fitness court itself. $40,000 of it is coming through the funding that we're actually getting from Blue Cross Blue Shield, so it leaves a balance of $130,000 that we're paying towards the project.
And for the Pat Garcia one?
The Pat Garcia one was $155,000, and for the fitness court itself, and we actually got $50,000 for towards that particular one for the previous project.
Thank you. And last question was, are there any future locations for a possible next fitness center? We now will have one in District 6, and this is a proposal for District 4. Are there any future plans?
Sure. Part of what we did with the National Fitness Council is looked at other locations throughout the city that we can look at in each of the districts. And we've identified some other areas that will be considered in the future from their research that they did. So in District 1, we're looking at potentially at Dr. Glenn Dye Park as a location. District 2 is Harrison Park. District 3, Plainview Park or Human Hill Park. District 4 is South Lake as a potential second location. In District 5, Buffalo Park, Sunset Park, or Harvest Park. And then for a second location, potentially in District 6 would be Municipal Park or either at the Keeper or the Plains. So part of their analysis was looking at other locations that we can have throughout the city in each district.
Thank you very much, Reggie. I see no further questions for staff. We'll open it up for public comment. I see none. We'll bring it back to the bench. This resides in Councilmember Glasscock's district, but I think Councilmember Ballard would like to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to add a little food for thought for your question about other areas of town that might be looking at a fitness court. As soon as we opened up the Pat Garcia Park, McConnell Air Force Base had reached out to me and was interested. So I think they're having conversations with the National Fitness Group to potentially add some of the courts and some of their facilities.
Councilmember Glasscock.
Thank you, Mayor. Reggie, thanks for encouraging healthy living in the community. And with that, I move that the City Council approve the purchase order agreement and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
2026 Annual Operating Budget and 2026 to 2035 Capital Improvement Program.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Goldtree. I'm the budget officer for the City of Wichita, and I am presenting the item on the budget and the CIP. This is the second of 4 public hearings about the budget and CIP. It's the only one that's in the evening. The development of the proposed budget and the CIP was guided by contributions from residents, the City Council, and employees. Resident involvement in the budget included responding to the community survey last fall, DAB meetings that were held in May, and creating budgets in the online simulator. The City Council has been engaged in the budget process in monthly workshops since January, which resulted in the strategic plan that guided budget recommendations. And finally, employees were involved in developing tactics that will result in implementation of the strategic plan. Between the workshop in late May and mid-June, the Budget Office collaborated with each department to connect the strategic plan to the budget document that you have today, which is evident in the department section of the budget book. The community survey is now conducted annually, and top-line results are summarized on this matrix, which plots quality on the Y or the left axis, and then importance on the X-axis at the bottom. The visualization has guided strategic planning as well as the budget and CIP document preparation. And to zoom in, this quadrant is the lower left quadrant of this community survey results. And these are services that residents have rated as being of high importance, but of lower quality than other services. Strategies and tactics in the strategic plan really focus on these service areas, on addressing items like homelessness, affordable housing, economic development, street repair, and crime prevention. In most cases, these tactics capture cross-departmental efforts that build on previous service delivery approaches. The online budget simulator was launched when the DAB meetings started in early May, and it's available through August 19th. And we could strike the around because when I last looked, there were exactly 800 responses to date. The increases and decreases are based on both priorities of people completing the survey and also the financial impact of each of these options. As a reminder, participants can increase or decrease the higher priority services on the right side of the matrix, but they can only decrease lower priority services in the budget simulator. So in the survey, for example, residents were asked about services without regard to the budgeted cost of them, but the added challenge of the budget simulator is that some services like police and fire, as we'll see in a later pie chart, cost considerably more than other services. At this point, the largest increase in higher priority services are to street repair, parks, and libraries, And in the lower priority services, which one could only reduce, the smallest decreases are in municipal court and sidewalk maintenance. So we'll provide you with an update once it closes. So the budget workshops this year were heavily focused on strategic planning. As a reminder, the strategic plan is available as its own tab in the budget document. It's also in the appendix of the CIP. The strategic plan was built in layers, and everybody moved rather quickly so that the tactics were affirmed in late May at that workshop, and then those could be included in the budget and CIP. I think that this table is a helpful illustration of the different layers of the strategic plan. Each of the pillars, the goals, the strategies, and the tactics. So each pillar outlines a desired outcome for the city of Wichita through its programs and services, and so that was the first step, was to develop statements for each of those pillars. Then goals, in turn, were developed, and then finally strategies and tactics were the last layer to be developed in this hierarchy. So I guess it wouldn't be a budget without the numbers. So here are the all funds summary charts. The city of Wichita budget has 36 funds this year. And these funds are each included in the financial plan section of the document. These two all funds pie charts summarize all revenues and expenditures across the organization. One thing that's unique about these pie charts, you'll notice, is that charges for services is the largest revenue source for all funds, and that's largely due to the utility funds that the city of Wichita operates. Compared to the all fund summary, the general fund revenue summary shows that property tax is the largest source, the largest slice on the pie chart, followed by franchise fees and then sales tax. And then there are two pie charts for the general fund on the expenditure side of the budget. The general fund pie chart by department demonstrates that about 3/4 of general fund expenditures are for services that residents rate as a high priority in the community survey. Those are, in many cases, very high priority: police, fire, and public works. And then likewise, salaries and benefits are also 76% of the budget when you look at the general fund budget by type of expenditure. And that being the case, it's always important to keep in mind that changes to salaries and benefits have a greater impact on the general fund budget than they do for budgets in some other funds. As I mentioned 2 slides ago, property tax is the largest source of revenue for the general fund. And there are 2 funds that receive property tax, general property tax. Those are the general fund and the debt service fund. Overall, the overall mill levy for the city of Wichita will be 1/2 mil lower in 2026 than 2025. And as a reminder, with regard to the mill levy, the action at the meeting on July 15th set the maximum taxes to be levied for each of these 2 funds in 2026. Oh my gosh, it happened again. I thought I tried everything to make this work. I'm so sorry. So these are the general fund long-term financial plan, which thankfully is in the budget document with the correct titles at the top. It's 2025 revised on the left, 2026 proposed, 27 projected, and then 28 and 29 projected. The general fund is expected to be balanced in 2026 and 2027 as a result of adjustments to the budget, which I will describe in a little bit. Due to uncertainty in the remainder of the planning period, so that's the 2 on the right side, a deficit is projected in 28 and 29. The fundamental reason for this imbalance is that growth in wages and benefits is expected to outpace revenue growth. As we talked about quite a bit during the workshops, one of the headwinds on revenue growth is expected decreasing interest earnings during the planning period. Again, we continue to update projections as more information is made available. And typically at budget workshops early in the year, we start with this projection that was in the budget the prior year, and then we make updates to that and continue through the budget process. So concurrent with the development of the strategic plan and providing updates on the financial projections at workshops, there was also a considerable amount of discussion about efficiency and process improvement. So in February, the focus of the workshop was on research topics that were an extension of the budget adoption in the previous year in August. So the City Council considered a number of options and then provided feedback to staff. And then in May, there was another round of options that were considered, and an updated list was provided in June. So some examples of the types of things that are included in the budget: some of the accelerated process improvements are related to street maintenance, park maintenance, court, and an equitable management model. And one thing a lot of those services in the first bullet point have in common is that they're areas in which there have been a high amount of vacancies. And then the budget reduction options in the second bullet point are ones that are expected to have limited impact on residents and/or improve efficiency. I'm holding my breath. It's another table. This one works. So in this table, this summarizes the impact of those adjustments, which is in the third row, what that impact on the adjustments was on the budget. So the first row here is what the general fund financial plan was in the budget that was adopted last August. The second row is a cumulative of a lot of adjustments and changes to the base budget that occur throughout the year. And then the third row is ideas, concepts that were discussed during workshops and have been included in the budget document. And with that, we are balanced in 2026 and 2027. And the slight surplus in 2025, as the budget grows, the slight surplus is used to meet the fund balance reserve policy. So transitioning into what are the things that are in the budget? There's a lot in the budget. So I just have some quick highlights of items that really connect back to the strategic plan because we talked so much about that. One of them is a cost recovery study. We've already started working on that. There's already been a lot of discussion this evening about centralized financial services. Another tactic that will be underway is in development of a community engagement blueprint. Additionally, implementation of a comprehensive supervisory development program will be kicked off next year, and then a review of employee benefits. So those are all items that you could find in the strategic plan that connect with the well-run city goal. And then Keep Wichita Safe goal, some highlights in our slides are developing an EMS pilot program with Sedgwick County EMS, implementing the drone as first responder program, leveraging real-time information center data for the city of Wichita, but also collaborating with others, using that data for collaboration, using risk terrain modeling to address causes of crime, and then seeking to establish a behavioral response partnership in collaboration with municipal court and housing and community services. And grow our economy. This pillar includes a variety of strategies across departments to foster innovation, attract investment, and support local businesses. So the cultural funding program will be updated, and that was identified in the cultural arts strategy plan that was presented to the City Council in the past. The transit network upgrade will expand transportation options that connect residential areas to employers and educational institutions. And then finally, another one being highlighted is that there's a lot of affordable housing strategies across the different pillars, but in this pillar, affordable housing strategies are related to planning, zoning, and permitting. And dependable infrastructure, the water reuse study is being pursued to continue strategies related to water conservation, and a decision support tool for park infrastructure similar to the decision support tools for other types of assets will be developed. And then finally, in Living Well, which these include goals related to activating a sense of belonging and well-being. Early childhood reading readiness activities will be provided with early learning partners. Emergency sheltering, wraparound services, and supportive housing will include staff training, data collection, visualization, and workforce development. It's very comprehensive. And then the comprehensive plan, funding was included in the budget, the 2025 adopted budget, to update the comprehensive plan. There have been a lot of changes in the last 10 years. So these tactics from across the pillars, whether funded by the general fund, other City of Wichita funds, or grants, are integrated into the operating budget. Linkage to goals can be found throughout the department in the division pages. So it is, it's remarkable we've made it to this point. It's great that we have it in the budget. So I'm just grateful that all the support of the City Council to get to this point. So quickly on the self-supported municipal improvement district, which is also called the SHMID. It's located downtown. Each year, the Downtown Wichita SHMID Advisory Board makes a budget request to the City of Wichita. This year, they have requested 10 mills to implement their Clean and Safe program. So notices related to the formal R&R hearing for this district have been published online and submitted to the Wichita Eagle. Property owners will receive notice of this impact in the budget hearing date and time by the Sedgwick County Clerk. So just some technical information about that. And on to the Capital Improvement Program, or CIP, which is a 10-year program for capital assets. Very quickly, the CIP receives, projects in the CIP are funded by a variety of sources of revenue, the largest being water utilities. On the expenditure side of the CIP, the projects that, when we're discussing the development of the CIP and capacity for the CIP, most of the focus is on the general obligation at-large projects, which it should be on this slide. Well, so GO at-large is over here, but then the GO at-large funds, those are the projects that receive the most discussion. That would be public facilities, public safety, park and rec, and heavy equipment. As a reminder, the debt service mill levy rate will be 7 in 2026, and then 0.17% will be shifted to the general fund starting in 2027. In addition to a lot of financial considerations, of course, the CIP is guided by the Community Investments Plan, which is the comp plan for Wichita and Sedgwick County, which I just mentioned will be updated soon, as well as the City of Wichita Strategic Plan. Just like the operating budget, the strategic plan guided the development of the CIP. For example, the CIP includes funding for public safety facilities, which that links to police and fire being in the community survey as being very high priorities. Maintenance of cultural facilities, as well as a variety of different asset groups. Just very briefly, some highlights of what's in the CIP: police and fire station replacements, replacement of fire apparatus, and then the addition of a police training facility and a new facility. Lots of maintenance for city facilities, bridge repair and rehabilitation. The local portion of K96 expansion, which will be a partnership project, and then a variety of street improvements, and a few are highlighted here. In the Living Well pillar, there's actually a highlight issue in the CIP if you're interested on cultural facilities maintenance, as well as I know there's a lot of activity and regarding the Dr. Glendye Sports Complex at that park. So those are some things. There's a lot of projects in the CIP, so maybe they'll get people excited about checking out more of them. So the budget process and calendar. So August is the month that the budget and CIP will be adopted. In addition to the hearing this evening, there will be 2 more hearings. On August 19th, there will be a hearing during the City Council meeting at 9 a.m. And on that day, the budget simulator will close. August 26th, the final and official public hearing is determined by action at the meeting on July 15th. So that's the one that's published in the public notices and also in the mailings that will be distributed by the county clerk. At that meeting, there will be 3 separate hearings, just to prepare everyone, I guess. There'll be 3 separate hearings for the Schmid revenue neutral rate, the Wichita revenue neutral rate, and the adoption of the budget, and the CIP is the last one. That meeting is also a 9 a.m. meeting. So thank you so much for your attention and just your participation in the budget process this year. It's been a really interesting journey, and it's a great budget, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Questions for staff, beginning with Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Elizabeth. I ask this every time. I'm just always wanted to make sure. What's the projected assessment increases for our future budgets?
Oh goodness, it's in the budget document. I think it's around, the plan is for it to level off in the future. So you can find that on page 76 of the budget if anyone were interested. For 2027, we're expecting 5.6%, 28, 4.4, and then 29, 3.9.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Will future presentations have pie charts, or have we decided to remove those?
The pie charts?
Yeah.
My goal right now is just to get rid of the jumbly numbers.
That was for Bob.
Oh.
Any further questions for staff? I have several. Can we go back to slide number 70?
Okay. Here we are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you, so that community members that may not have the booklet, which by the way, you can also look at these documents on wichita.gov/budget, and it is the printed or the PDF version of this printed document. Can you talk about how much in property taxes is actually collected, because it does not cover the entire general fund budget? Is that correct?
Yes, so if I may go back a slide. So property tax, it is the largest revenue source in the general fund, but the general fund, all things being said, is relatively well diversified. So property tax is about 38% of general fund revenue. So if you were to, it's, about 132 million for property tax. And if you were to look, for example, at the fire department, property tax revenue is less than expenditures for the police department, and that's our largest department. So we do receive other sources of revenue, such as sales tax, franchise fees, charges for service, and what have you. And also, if I may add, the budget's available as a printed copy at all of our library locations. So, sorry, but.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Sure.
And then can we go to slide number 82, please? I just want to address the Clean and Safe program. I really am very appreciative of now retired airports employee Dean, who is part of this current pilot program for Clean and Safe. And it is a Clean and Safe program for the downtown Wichita area. This is an individual that connects with community members that may have questions, also helps clean up, collects trash, and so I'm looking forward to this Clean and Safe program expanding beyond just Dean himself. And so I do support this in particular, but I wanted to highlight that Dean is the one who currently is wearing a yellow vest, and he's around downtown Wichita. I have one more question, and that is, the CIP didn't appear to have any dollars allocated for the the renovation or the maintenance of the former central library. Can you address that?
Yes, so there's some city facilities projects that have general titles for city facilities maintenance. It's one of the many things that's in my job is I do approve requisitions as they go through workflow. So, for example, the roof at the library, I think, is being replaced or repaired at this time, and so that was charged to one of those city facility projects.
Are there any other dollars that will be allocated to the former central library?
There's not an itemized central library project, but that general city facilities project has been used for major maintenance. Like, I think more, not improvements, but maintenance type activities.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I see no further questions. We will now open it up for public comment. Each member of the public can have up to 5 minutes to speak on the budget.
Madam Mayor, members of the Wichita City Council, Mr. Manager, sometimes I think it's a good thing to kind of step away from the nitty-gritty and the details and kind of take a longer perspective look at what's happening in our city and what we need. My name is Harold Schlechtweg, and I live in the district, in the Delano district, at 351 North Fern Street. I am the chairman of the board of directors of ICT Trees. We are dedicated to the preservation and expansion of Wichita's urban tree canopy. Our vision is a greener, healthier, and more sustainable future for Wichita. I am here to encourage and to urge you to adopt a budget that initiates a vigorous program of tree planting, maintenance, and removal on our streets and in our parks and public places. Wichita's shade trees are not an amenity, they are a necessity. They are not a want, they are a need. At a time of steadily rising temperatures that threaten the health and safety of citizens, the most cost-effective solution is to plant trees. This can be done strategically, but the goal is to improve the tree canopy citywide. ICT Trees is in its terrible twos. We were founded in March 2023, or to use another metaphor, perhaps more suitable for the air capital, we are in the process of building the airplane while flying it. We have benefited during the process from the tremendous outpouring of support we've received from citizens. Their support has enabled our all-volunteer organization to make substantial progress over the past 2 years. Our purpose is to educate citizens and policymakers as to the value of the urban forest, to plant trees in available spaces, and to assist residential and other property owners to plant and maintain trees. To accomplish this purpose, we have sponsored educational tree walks, distributed educational materials, and weighed in on policy issues directly affecting the health of our tree canopy. With support of grants and individual donors, we've sponsored free tree distribution events for homeowners, churches, and businesses, distributing more than 100 trees. This spring, we'll do it again, and because of the need, increase the number of trees we distribute. These free tree distributions are strategically targeted to neighborhoods most at risk from rising temperatures. In 2023, the City of Wichita published a joint study with NASA identifying 17 census tracts most at risk from rising temperatures. These neighborhoods are located within or near what are called urban heat islands. Dense infrastructure, concrete, roads, and buildings cause temperature to be significantly higher in some neighborhoods than others. The outside temperatures difference between neighborhoods with lots of trees and those that lack them can be as much as 10 degrees. Wichita residents living in or near these heat islands face higher risks of heat-related illnesses. These neighborhoods often lack tree cover and green spaces, compounding the heat stress and reducing residents' ability to cool their homes affordably. Our temperatures, which are increasing and projected to increase over the next 3 decades, can be deadly. We got a preview of this July 2024, when 115 people were treated for heat-related illnesses at the McConnell Air Show. We need to act now to make sure our children and their children don't suffer from our short-sightedness. ICT Trees, its donors, and volunteers will continue to do our part. We appreciate the support we've received so far from city government, but we can't do it alone. The city needs a vigorous urban forestry program addressing our street trees, parks, and public property. It is a need, not a want, a necessity, not an amenity. Thank you, and if you have any questions.
Thank you, Harold. Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Mayor. Harold, I just want to say thank you for continuing to advocate for our community, and I think we're taking the right steps to try to repair some of our tree canopy, and I appreciate you and Elizabeth and all the other members of ICT Trees to help us make that possible. So I appreciate you continuing to come forward and make sure that we know it's still a priority to the community as well.
And we've had excellent support from the city, and we've heard good things from everybody in the community and the neighborhoods, so we very much appreciate that.
Thank you, Harold. You can just step forward if you would like to speak.
Madam Mayor, City Council members, my name is Elizabeth Bishop, and I also am with ICT Trees. So this is a bit of a continuation of Harold's presentation, but I would kind of like to focus on the drought and the need for water and the health of trees. So I have a handout. I'll get my agenda back from you later, Councilmember Hoheisel. One of the things that is true in Wichita is that we're losing more trees than we're replacing. I believe that we are really beginning to wrap our arms around that fact and the fact that we need to do something about it. This, in 2023 or 2024, 2024, we finally, the city's forestry division of the park department, along with a lot of volunteers, including ICT Trees, planted more trees than we removed. First time in decades. This year, it has been, because of the drought, but very disappointing that, as far as I know, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, I would be delighted to be wrong, there have been no trees or shrubs planted in parks or public spaces, and there will not be for the rest of the year. We have another planting season coming up as the weather cools towards the end of September and on into, well, it can go all the way through January. Is a good time to plant trees. So we would like to encourage the planting of trees, and in that regard, to focus on the city's approach in terms of being a model for private citizens. I'm going to talk about how you can water a tree effectively with water, as much water conservation as we can get to, with using a 5-gallon bucket and address it to the tree twice. This is a 5-gallon bucket with a hole, not in the bottom, but towards the bottom of the bucket. And if you take this bucket, fill it with water, or take it and place it where you want it, and then fill it with water, which is what I have to do, or otherwise I would slosh it all out on my way to the tree. If you do that twice, once on either side of a tree, a young tree, that's good for the next week. That's true even when the weather is hot. And what many professionals will tell you is that most people overwater a newly planted tree and will kill it from having too much water because root rot sets in. We hope that maybe we can have some tree planting in the city, in public spaces, in 2025. We are a Tree City USA. We're very proud of that. We've had that distinction for 40-some years, and I hate to see one year when we do not plant a single tree. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to hold forth some more.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Councilmember Tuttle?
I was just going to thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I know that on July 8th, the city manager sent an email to some other constituents about planting, and I know you're talking about this year specifically, but city manager, could you maybe address 26 and 27 regarding
I
the
appreciate
budget?
that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor. Yes, Councilmember, good question. Actually, I'm going to address 25, 26, and 27. The original budget presented to the council during workshops did not have funding for trees in 26, 27. Based on feedback from the council during workshops, that money was restored. So there's about $180,000, I think, for the purchase of trees in each of those years. In 2025, we had not anticipated that we would be out of the drought and that we'd be planting trees. However, not to give you too much of a preview, but on the 19th, August 19th, we're going to be bringing to you ordinance change related to permanent conservation measures. We also will have an estimate for you on when we think that we will be able to implement that and actually go back to stage one. And that may mean that we will have a fall planting season. That will depend on how you talk about it and also on the input that you get from staff. So there is a possibility that we'll be planting some city trees in 2025 as well.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilmember
Hooray.
Glasscock.
Thank you, Mayor. Representative, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your advocacy. I agree with you. We should be planting trees. I'm encouraged by the hopeful news of the manager and thankful for the budget recommendations moving forward that tree planting was included. Back
I
in the
am
budget.
so happy to know we will not have a zero planting year.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you. Bob, what will those qualifications will say be, or how will they decide if we are able to plant the trees that we have purchased already?
Well, the first thing is to be able to get to a point where we can allow sufficient watering of the new trees and other plant material, and that's what we're going to talk about on the 19th. What we are comfortable with in terms of what moves us from stage 2 to stage 1. And again, part of that will be you adopting an ordinance on every other day watering or 3-day-a-week watering.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very excited that we will plant trees in Wichita next year. I'm really excited about that. But also private citizens planting trees. I think it's a great thing. So very much a tree supporter, so thanks for your work.
When we give away trees, every recipient gets the bucket lecture.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Representative, my former representative. So always a pleasure to see you up here, Pam. What is the deadline to really get the trees in the ground? Is it mid-November before it starts getting to where it's just not a good idea for the year, or?
If the month has an R in it, it's a pretty decent
All right. Well, I appreciate that. All right. Thank you.
I would like to echo what Harold had to say and thank the Park Department, especially the Forestry Division. They've just been marvelous.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Holly Danley. I participate in the ICT trees, and I got involved because I moved to a neighborhood that, zip code that is the heat island, and so I started receiving the trees, and I'm just so thrilled to be a part of it and their hard work, Harold and Elizabeth and everyone involved. And I enjoy my new trees, and I want to play a part in beautifying Wichita. I think it's very important. I walk at the park every day, I walk my dogs, and I look at the canopy of the park. Hi, Reggie. And last night I was observing how beautiful the canopy of the trees are at this park, how widespread it is. And these are the older elm trees on the street or in the neighborhoods that have seen their lifetime, you know. So I'm looking forward to helping be involved beautifying the city of Wichita. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen.
Good evening, Diana Tedlock. The community survey that was done last November, December is, the matrix was showed earlier where it's the low and high priority items are shown in a matrix of 4 quadrants. I'm sure that many people, and that is used repeatedly, has been as the basis and justification for the direction of the council. I'm sure many people don't realize that only 461 individuals actually answered that community survey out of a population of over 400,000 individuals. So the input of 461 individuals has led the city council to determine animal welfare is a low priority to our city and community. The simulator is reflective and restrictive based on that community survey. It only allows increases and decreases to the high priority items. The low priority items, you can only make a decrease to the budget. So this purposely restricts constituents and makes it harder for their voice to be heard, that they want to see an increase in those items because they would have to come to a meeting and speak and or call or email their representatives. Per the city goals for 2026 budget process, it was stated on the simulator wording that the process would continue to focus on the high priority quadrants. Therefore, the city has made it known they really have no intention of addressing the needs and concerns at the Wichita Animal Shelter, which has become a high kill facility. In fact, at the June 24th meeting, city council meeting, it was stated there was not one tactic in the budget for animal control, animal services. And as a political ploy, the chief of police even suggested defunding both animal control and animal services. The city hired Emily Hurst and promised changed. It is now time to see those promises be made a priority and included in the budget. We need additional budget for the marketing of animals, volunteer program, a foster program, enrichment of the animals, employee training, outdoor area for the animals, new pressure washers, and a washing area for blankets and toys. The 2025 revised budget had an increase of almost $205,000, and the 2026 proposed budget had an increase of $207 increase for animal services. All these increases were to accommodate wages and benefits, with no increase to the equivalent full-time positions. There has been no increase in the full-time equivalent positions since 2023, and it continues to remain at 31. The Wichita Animal Shelter Management has reported to a captain in the Wichita Police Department literally for years. That position was not previously reflected in the Animal Control Services budget. That has changed. They have now moved the captain position under the Animal Control Services budget while leaving the equivalent full-time heads at 31, so effectively reducing heads by 1. The accomplishment of the shelter restructure announced in October of 2024 did not increase heads. In fact, again, it actually reduced by 1 by the movement. All the restructure accomplished was an increase in management wages and making the facility more top-heavy. Don't be fooled by the appearance says into thinking the city is actually investing more in animal control services. They are not. They're just moving funding from one bucket to another. This is for appearances only. And let it not be mistaken, even though the budget for the captain is now under animal control services, he is not devoted full-time to animal welfare. He has received training and is involved in the city's new drone project, and I'm not for sure what else he's doing. However, for any time spent that is not directly related to animal services and animal control, he should be loaning into those departments for transparency and accountability to the public, as his wages plus benefits equate to approximately $225,000 annually. So I guess that's my time, but any questions?
Thank you, Diana. Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Mayor. Diana, thank you for continuing to advocate for animal control. My question is for City Manager. Can you speak to any of the concerns about, I know Councilmember Hoheisel asked for more positions, I think last year, and they were put in the budget, and do we know that those have not been filled? I know they were moved to full-time instead of part-time. Do you have any updates or that you can share with that?
Police representative, so I don't have the exact details. Emily is in the one position that was created for management of the facility. I don't remember the clerical position and how that was handled.
Animal control position was reclassified to the admin position. And so the lieutenant position basically became.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, but I want to double check that.
Okay, yeah, if we could get that information, that'd be great. Thank you.
But the equivalent head count still stayed at 31. It's been the same since 2023. So there was no increase in the equivalent head counts. They did take the kennel techs and transferred those from part-time to full-time, but the equivalent head count has remained at 31. And that now includes the captain, which it didn't before. So it's actually a reduction.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. So is that the kennel techs, were they folded into the position, or was that an animal officer, control officer, into the clerical position?
I think it was an officer, if I remember correctly. It's,
Two part-time kennel techs are reclassified as full-time.
right. There was one animal control officer that was reclassified to administrative aide in this year.
And it was a position that we hadn't been able to fill?
It was vacant and had been, consistently vacant.
Okay.
And again, a reminder, when we did this reorganization, the idea was to try to get duties away from the kennel techs and the animal control officers so they could focus on their work. And also, we could be more effective in getting back to residents with their complaints, and we could process those quicker.
Good evening, Margaret Wheeler-Shabazz.
As I was going through the papers and listening to everything tonight, first off, I would like to thank you, Glasscock, for initiating the volunteers to audit through the finances. But I did have a few questions about why did it take the volunteers to uncover over $500,000 of unresolved issues of the Stryker complex? Why weren't CID taxes discrepancies caught or questioned sooner? Residents have raised these concerns for a while. I've been reading them in the newspaper for a couple of years now. Who approved paying the water bill for the facility with leaks, known leaks? My household had leaks and the city didn't pay my bill. I just got a discount. As you plan next year's spending, how can we trust the process without public accountability when no one stood up and said anything until now?
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Margaret, for coming up and expressing your concerns. One of the things I spoke about it earlier that we had done was hire an internal auditor to be able to go through, and she has been finding a number of these issues with past contracts and whatnot. Also, I do believe that we do forgive a water bill, a one-time forgiveness if there are water leaks. So I'm not sure if that's what you're referencing. It's discounted? Okay. Okay, yeah, well, let's check into that. Thank you.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. And City Manager, I may ask you to address this just informally, but regarding Stryker, it isn't a $500,000 cost. The water, they have paid their past water bill. There was a discrepancy of $8,500. They will be paying that in the future. The other part of that is there's some misinterpretation of sponsoring rights. So I'd be happy to sit down and reach out, if you would like to reach out and to anyone and to explain that there isn't $500,000 potential savings from Stryker. City Manager, would you like to?
I think without getting a lot of detail, you summarized it accurately.
Councilmember Glasscock.
Shabazz, thank you for speaking. I know that we'll be going over a lot of the items presented. This was the first time it was released to the public today, and I think it shows that when we have community engagement, we'll listen. And when citizens bring something, we hear them, and we'll investigate what's truth and maybe what needs more research. And so I know that this is just the start of many other conversations.
Hello, Faith Martin, proud member of District 2. I'm going to try to get through all of these. I have a lot of notes, but first I wanted to mention the simulator. I was actually pretty disappointed with our inability to select certain areas of what's important and what's not important. When I look at the general budget, there's like 14 different line items for budgeting for policing. So traffic enforcement, there's a lot of things. We weren't allowed to give any comment on that on the simulator. So I'd like to see the simulator either get some more robust public engagement when it's being developed next year, or just break it down a little farther. It may take longer to take it, but I don't mind taking a long survey. The strategic plan, it's always nice to see a robust strategic plan. What I don't understand is why any of these goals that are given here are SMART goals. I don't see any time bound on any of these goals. It's great to have goals, but is it going to be completed Q4 of 2025? Is it 30 years from now? It's hard to understand in our strategic plan when there's no goals or no dates on any of these goals. Benchmarks for the community to hold you accountable. I'd like to see that included, because one of them is, like infographics are under strategy 2.11. Well, is an infographic really a strategic measurement of that goal? I don't really think so. I'd like to see a little more thought put into those. The CIP, honestly, I don't really find much wrong with the CIP. I really appreciate the 9 fire stations and the equipment. All of that is great. It's sorely needed. I'd like to make sure that that doesn't go away and get reallocated somewhere else, that those fire equipment and those stations are really needed. I would also like the council to look at the art set aside for the CIP. When we're in a budget downturn, it would be nice if there was flexibility for the council to say, hey, maybe this year, if projects are already in place, we keep that rolling, but since we're gonna have a shortfall, we're gonna pause that amount that we're gonna put into art projects for a year or two. And then when we're back on our feet, then we put the art funds back in there. I don't think it's that we don't love art. If we have to tighten belts, I think that that's a good place to look, at least putting the flexibility into that ordinance or something to look into. The general budget, I made some comments, or I made some calls today trying to find out about community policing. Big fan of community policing. One of the reasons why I liked choosing the police chief that we have is because he said community policing was so very important to him. There's 20 community policing slots, but it looks like Patrol North didn't answer. Patrol East had 3 and 1 rotating. Patrol South had 3. Patrol West had 4 with 1 that rotates. For there being a large city, the fact that we have 20 slots that aren't filled and they rotate out, I don't know how the community is supposed to build any relationships with these policing officers. My neighborhood has had 4 different people in the last year, and sometimes they don't come to meetings, they don't come to DAB meetings. I think we need to make sure that if we're budgeting for community policing, they need those resources. Let's give them the help they need to make community policing as robust as we say it is. Oh my gosh, so many things. When I looked at the general budget on complaints, police services, and crime prevention, all of those metrics have not met the standard. And they have the standards listed in the budget. And yet I see that we keep raising the police budget. There's things that they need. They need equipment. They need shields. They need all of those things. But when the Jensen Hughes recommendations, we are 2+ years past Jensen Hughes recommendations, still not being implemented, and no updates given since the last time I came before this body in December when this body gave them raises and bonuses. I think it would be good transparency for the community to find out before we give more budget to policing, have we met those Jensen Hughes recommendations from multiple years ago, multiple administrations ago? TIFs. So in the short term, a TIF can seem like a good idea. In the long term, we as taxpayers may have to take on additional taxes, or the city may have to take on additional debt when those projects aren't viable. And so I think when we look at the long term, the uncertainty of TIF performances creates too much risk if the projects aren't doing well. So I'd like the city to have a little more structure around when we give out TIFs, because taxpayers already have exorbitant property taxes. We shouldn't have to also bear the brunt of projects that aren't working well. Speaking of property taxes, oh gosh, 12 seconds. So we all know that assessments have gone up. We know we have a housing shortage. I'm looking through the budget and I am sorely disappointed when people say over and over that homelessness and housing is a huge priority, and we have almost nothing in the budget funded by this community. We know HUD is going to potentially have a lot of issues. Federal funding is almost gone. This community needs to do more than the MAC when we know we're 70,000 units short of housing, and property taxes are going to continue to have higher appraisal rates, and we're going to be priced out of our homes if we don't step up and figure out how to handle this housing shortage. I didn't get through all of my notes, but I just want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you to staff for putting together such good documentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Mayor. Bob, is there an opportunity to get any type of updates on Jensen Hughes in a public setting?
We surely can. I believe since Faith talked, she said since last December, I believe there have been updates to the dashboard, because we had a series of discussions with the union to resolve some issues, and I know when those were resolved that we changed the dashboard. So I'll need to go back and take a look at where we are, but a majority of those Jensen Hughes recommendations have been implemented. Be more than happy at some point to go through that with council, maybe at a workshop if that's who you'd like, and we could highlight everything that's been done and those actions that are still pending.
I think that would be beneficial for everybody, just since it's been 2 years in the works. I think that would be beneficial, at least I think so. The other thing I wanted to mention, Faith mentioned community policing officers. I can only speak to my conversations that I've had with the chief, and I know in some of the areas of District 6 the community policing officers were absorbing 2 beats while we've been shorthanded with the officers. So I know that the current classes that have been graduating and the one that's working currently to become an officer, I believe about the first of the year, the chief said that we would be able to kind of divide those back out, at least some, so that they didn't all have 2 beats. It's probably very difficult to do 1 beat, let alone 2. It's a pretty big area to try to cover and build relationships and community with one officer. So I do know that that's a priority, and I've talked to him about it several times. So I'm hopeful that after this next graduating class that we'll be able to get the community policing officers back to 1 beat. So thank you for asking.
Thank you, Councilmember Ballard. I do want to point out that on wichitapolice.com, if you click on transparency, there's also another button that talks about Jensen Hughes. There have been updates since December, including in March as well as in April of 2025. So according to this dashboard, 81% has been implemented of the Jensen Hughes report. Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just a couple points. I think we are serious about backfilling. We do have a recruiting class around 40, so that's going to go a long way towards actually filling a lot of the vacant positions. I know some in my district actually got filled here after this last recruiting class, so we'll continue to work on that one. As far as housing goes, I agree. We are looking at some options in order to possibly look at some affordable housing funding. So it's touch and go as we go, so we can't overpromise and underdeliver, but it is something that we are actively looking at the options that we have. Thank you.
If I could just address 2 other issues that Faith brought up, because I do think they're important. One has to do with measures, and that's really the last piece of our work. You've approved a strategic plan that goes all the way down to the tactic level, but what we're now doing is developing performance measures so that you can have a dashboard and track what we're doing on the tactics, the strategies, and the goals. So that's ongoing work, and she's right, that's the most meaningful when you actually have outcome measures. The other thing I do think is an important point to bring up, and Councilmember Hoheisel made a reference to something similar earlier in the meeting, regarding TIFs. The council's position on TIFs is very different than it was 10 years ago. Right now, I believe a majority, if not all of our TIFs that we've brought forward are on a pay-as-you-go basis. So we don't have that liability should there not be enough TIF generated or enough increment generated to support a project. That falls on the backs of the developer, not of the city. And so I think it's an important distinction to make, and it's been a marked departure or change in our economic development policy over the last few years.
I will follow up with that very comment. You mentioned it's been a decade since those changes, or because I think a lot of community members still remember some of the past, and I don't believe anyone on this council was in those conversations back then. My question then is, can we have either on the website those poor performing TIFs or TIFs that didn't have this new criteria? For transparency purposes, we need to be transparent of what has happened in the past and that it is different now.
Mayor, our quarterly financial report has information on the financial performance of each TIF, and we do, I believe those are posted online as well. So that's pretty good detail on each of the TIFs.
Mayor, the River Village Trail was just a few years ago for $750,000 in TIF, and that was within the
Ms. Margaret, you can address that at a different point in time, but I think what the city manager is saying is the information is available. However, I would like to see it be more accessible, not just within those quarterly financials. I think that it would be very helpful for community to see, again, what has been previously done versus what it currently is, and how they are different. And then to just address one more point that Faith mentioned, she was talking about the arts set aside. Right now it's a 2% for arts. Can you address what would need to happen in order for this council to have more flexibility in times when we do have a budget shortfall?
My recollection is it would take an ordinance change. That measure or that action is not recommended in 26. It's shown in the 27 budget, and that won't be finalized by this council until next year, but it showed one path to get to a balanced budget for 27.
What would be required if we wanted to move it up to 2026?
An ordinance change this year.
So I'm just speaking on my behalf. I would like to see a proposal that shows how much would be saved if we did implement that in 26 versus in 27.
Okay.
We'll continue with public comment.
Hi, I'm Julie Robinson. Hello, Mayor and council members, city manager. So I'm relatively new to Wichita. I just looked up, I'm in District 1. And so I'm very anxious about being up here. It's my first meeting. And so I'm not as familiar with all the budgeting and all the terms that y'all are tossing around. But part of why I moved here and have chosen to stay here is the arts and the things that happen here in the community. I have season tickets to a number of different things. I participate in museums and art council, festivals, music, theater, and it's part of what has drawn me here and keeps me here. And I would be saddened if that was less of a priority. I know it's not a huge portion of the budget, but I would hate to see it go anywhere but up. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Julie, welcome to City Hall, and I'm glad to see you. So representing District 1, I'm glad to have you here, and also glad to hear your support of the arts. I'm definitely supportive as well. I wouldn't be supportive of changing the ordinance because I think the arts are important, and while some see flexibility in that, I see it as a number of things. That is opportunity for young people, adults, folks who just continue to make our community better, and that's a big part of crime prevention as well, it's just providing those opportunities. So welcome, glad to see you here, and I'm definitely very supportive of the arts.
Vice Mayor Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. Julie, I don't know, do you have tickets to Music Theater of Wichita?
Not yet.
You should. This year is amazing. The cast is absolutely amazing. All three shows have been absolutely fantastic. So I recommend you go. There's a couple more left. Buy some tickets and go. And all of Wichita should support it. It's a really, really outstanding cast, director, and everything. So highly recommend it.
Thank you. I will just ask City Manager to just address what is the 2% for art. This is not for all cultural arts. It is a specific set aside. Can you explain the 2% for art?
Yes, ma'am, Mayor. Based on city code, we allocate 2% of local funding sources in the CIP for art. And then each year we meet with the design council and they make recommendations on which projects to allocate that to. And that total is somewhere in the neighborhood, it varies obviously each year, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.8 million. And it's, again, this is the capital improvement side of our cultural arts program.
Again, this is not from the general budget, but the CIP itself, so new projects.
Yes, ma'am.
A good example would be the water treatment plant. Can you address how much the water treatment plant received in the 2% for art? And again, this was something that was for a new build.
The water treatment plant, I believe, was in excess of $1 million, but that actually did not come out of the 2% for arts. The 2% for arts is generally, I think, more police stations, fire stations, the bridges, the Manissa Bridge that we've done artwork on, the Brewer Center. That's typically what that money is used on.
So the water treatment plant did not get any 2% for art funding?
It had arts funding, but that part of the funding was incorporated into the cost of the treatment plant.
Thank you. Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, so for the 2% for the arts, is that cash or is that bonded out?
We have the authority to do either. It kind of depends. If it's incorporated with a total project, it's not uncommon for us to bond that. But if it's a standalone, we typically would cash fund it. But
Okay,
we have flexibility to go either way.
So if it's bonded out, it's not savings that we would immediately realize. It's savings from future debt, essentially.
Probably the most efficient way to produce savings initially would be, there are projects in the 2026 CIP that are recommendations for the Design Council for Art on particular projects. Some of those have not been initiated yet. That would probably be the route to reduce arts funding in 26 if that was the objective.
Okay, so whatever we have cash, or whatever we haven't allocated yet, and would be paying for in cash.
Probably, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
We'll continue with public comment.
Good evening, man. LaWanda DeShazer, District 1. Just a quick question. When we went over the budget, there was some CIP items listed, but not like year or dollar amount. And I was interested in the Dr. Glenn Dye Sports Complex. Like, when is that supposed to happen, and what is the price tag for that project? Thank you.
Thank you, LaWanda. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. The price tag for Phase 1 and 2 is about $38 million for all outdoor football fields and indoor track. And that project would initiate next year upon having all of the funds collected.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. City Manager Layton, a follow-up question to that is how much of city dollars will be spent on the Dr. Glenn Day complex?
Right now, it anticipates $500,000 of city money for the design of the facility, and the CIP shows all private funding at this point in 2029 for the sports complex.
Thank you. We'll continue with public comment. Sorry, you've already spoken once.
But it's on a different subject.
It's the budget. Anyone else in the audience who would like to speak regarding the budget? I see none. We'll bring it back to the bench and thank all 8 individuals who spoke during public comment. Council members. Councilmember Glasscock.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank staff for working on the budget. I think there's a lot of great things, and I think with the reduction of the mill levy, we're moving in the right direction to support the community. We've talked about this at a previous workshop, and I wanted to bring it for consideration and see what the process would be for staff to look at it. Could we go to the budget presentation, item number 7, or page number 72? Is that possible? Okay, yeah, this is the page I was looking at. I know that this might be hard to read, but when we're looking in the future, we are still looking at projected deficits. Obviously, that changes. We have higher interest earnings. There are ways that that can consolidate as a whole. When we had a previous workshop regarding some of the upcoming deficits, one of the considerations that the manager had discussed was the creation of a Wichita local sales tax. I'd like to continue that conversation. We had an executive summary posted on May 27th, 2025, and I just want to highlight a few of those things. The city of Wichita is one of only 2 first-class cities in Kansas without a sales tax. The other one would be Newton, if I remember correctly, and they actually get a higher amount of their county sales tax, so they do have more revenue coming in from sales tax than we do as a municipality. Part of that executive summary continues in saying this is largely that Wichita's portfolio is largely dependent on property taxes because of a lack of a city sales tax. It continues by saying that the general fund revenues have greater annual variation because of a lack of a city sales tax. Some other points that I have on page 3 of that document, it says that this makes a sales tax well suited for capital expenses. And there is in this presentation and in the suggestion, one of the aspects, and this is on page 7, is that 0.5% of a sales tax over the course of 5 years would bring in $303.2 million to the city's revenue. If we look and break that down by 2027, 2028, 2029, 30, we start with an estimated mill levy reduction. If we tie that sales tax to mill levy reduction by 4.8 mills, that increases by 2023 to 6.9 mills. To break that down in terms of monetary value, that would allow cash funding of infrastructure projects at $22.9 million in 2027. It would allow for the stabilization of current service delivery, which I think is incredibly important in this as well, at $5.9 million, and by 2031, that balloons out to $6.3 million, and that gives us some leverage of being able to stabilize the reserves. And then the most important is that the reduction in the taxes levied in property taxes is $28.9 million in 2027 for our citizens. I think every single one of us hears from citizens about the burden of property taxes, but we also heard today that we want continuation of services and we want to make sure that our budget is stabilized in the future. I am supportive of this proposal. This would also, if this were to move forward, it would take a vote of the citizens, which I think is also important when we're moving forward with this consideration. So quick question for the manager. Let's say we have a few months to investigate this to see if this makes sense for the body as a whole. If we were to, let's say, bring this up in October or November regarding us voting on putting this on the ballot, could that be on the ballot by spring of 2026, which would allow us to have capture by the time we face maybe any challenges, allow stabilization, and be able to reduce the mill levy for citizens?
I believe that's the case based on our preliminary understanding of the current state law and how and when special elections can be called.
Okay, another quick question. I know when we had originally talked about 30% of estimated revenue from sales tax would actually come from outside of their community, correct? Correct.
Yep.
So that means right now, citizens outside of our community are using Wichita services when they're driving on our infrastructure, our roads. They're using a lot of the amenities in the city and they're not paying anything for it. Meanwhile, I could go to Goddard, I could go to Andover, I could go to Mays, and I'm going to be paying a sales tax in those communities. But if they come to Wichita, they're not paying a sales tax. I think this would help reduce the burden on Wichita taxpayers, be able to help encourage us to be able to stabilize our reserves. So I'm supportive of looking at this, and I want to hear from my colleagues if they would be interested, because I think this is a win-win for challenges we're facing in the future, reduce property taxes for individuals, and also make sure that we maintain current service levels and be able to preserve that moving forward.
Vice Mayor Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. I would definitely support that also, either 0.5% or 1%. It would allow us to reduce property taxes, but also cash fund public safety, police stations, fire stations, and everyone knows if you pay cash for a house, you don't have that debt over a period of 20, 30 years. And that would also help our budget in future years. So very much in favor of it, and do want to reiterate that up to 30% of that comes from outside of Wichita. All the bedroom communities around Wichita are using our streets, our facilities. They drive in here. If they have a wreck, our police department responds to it. Our fire department responds to it, and they're not paying for that. So I think it'd be more equitable, and it would reduce the burden for Wichita taxpayers.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I am supportive of keeping the conversation going. Of course, I would prefer to see investments in quality of life. Also, everyone who comes to Sedgwick County does pay an extra 1% tax, and we get half of that for roads and bridges. So that part is covered, but the other things, I think, that would be good. But happy to have the conversation. More interested in quality of life things and other projects, because the projects that we are talking about in regard to public safety are already in the CIP, but I think we could make more investments in quality of life. And one great example happened earlier today on the panel when we were talking. It was a few of us talking to Leadership Wichita, and the superintendent was there, and he talked about how beneficial it was when investments from ARPA were used to get the, just forgot the name of it, Future Ready Center done quicker. So it was a 5-year plan. That happened in 1 year, and now you see that benefit. So when you make investments like that really quickly, you can really improve things for the community, and I think there's a lot of strategic investments we can make. Supportive of this, but again, would love to have the conversation and add in some quality of life amenities as well as a sunset to the sales tax.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Johnson on a lot of his points. I'm interested in continuing the conversation, but you did, Councilmember Glasscock, mention a lot of people are struggling right now. So I think a lot of that is dependent on whether or not we can get the food sales tax exempted on the state level. That's something, avoid taxing necessities, avoid taxing the working people and the poor who are just barely making it as it is. So it's an interesting conversation we can continue, but that is something that I definitely would have problems with if, again, because the state did eliminate their sales tax on food, but it still held us to it. So municipalities, all of ours, food is still being taxed at 1% sales tax. So let's see how that conversation goes with the state. They've never let us down before, right? All right, thank you.
Councilmember Glasscock.
Thank you. To Councilmember Hoheisel's point, I would support lobbying the state to make sure that food would be excluded from any sales tax.
I see no further comments. With that, I will move to receive public comment on the 2026 proposed budget and the 2026-2035 proposed capital improvement program, repeal existing ordinances, and approve first reading of ordinances to implement the budget, with second reading set for Tuesday, August 26, 2025.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Approved that pursuant to Section 204090, Mayor Wu's travel expenses as estimated on the travel authorization and expense form to attend the League of Kansas Municipalities Annual Conference in Overland Park, Kansas, October 9th and 10th, 2025, for the purpose of representing the city of Wichita, consistent with AR 3.1, be approved. Upon return from travel, actual expenses shall be reported to the Controller's Office.
This travel, again, is because I am a board member of the League of Kansas Municipalities, representing the largest city in the state of Kansas.
May I do that? I will move to approve the travel for Mayor Wu as estimated on the travel authorization and expense form to attend the League of Kansas Municipalities Annual Conference in Overland Park, Kansas, October 9th, 10th, 2025, for the purpose of representing the city of Wichita, consistent with AR 3.1, be approved. Upon return from travel, actual expenses shall be reported to Controller's Office.
Can you read that again?
I can. Let me-
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Council member appointments and comments.
Council members, any appointments? Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. I would like to appoint Braden McCurdy to the Affordable Housing Review Board.
I would also like to appoint Nick Stabe for the Design Council, and I would like to appoint Larry Burke Sr. to the Sedgwick County Community Corrections Advisory Board. I will move to approve the recommended appointments.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, please call the next, council members, any comments? Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a shout out to PD and their work with the, working in collaboration with the Sheriff's Office and the federal officers as well. Some major bust a couple of days ago. We see it all the time on the streets. This is a major step forward to cutting off the flow of especially meth into our community. So thank you to WPD and everybody who worked on that one. Second point, we will be having a district breakfast this Saturday, the best breakfast in the city of Wichita, 9:30 in the morning at the Christian Faith Center. Special guest Gary Jansen, he will be talking about sewage treatment plant, BNR upgrades and odor control. So love to have a full house out there. Again, it's a great breakfast, 9:30. I'll be coming from a neighborhood cleanup right before that, so I'm sure I'll be bringing some of that odor with me. So,
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Actually, this Saturday, the best breakfast is going to be in District 1 with Chief Snow and Deputy Chief Duff over at Atwater at 9:30. So that'll be the best one. Also want to shout out Neighborhood Night Out next week. I think District 1, when I counted, I think we had 14 parties to go to. I will try to get there to all of them. We don't normally make all of them, but we'll get there, eat as many hamburgers and hot dogs as possible. But looking forward to getting out to the community for that. And then also we're going to have a WPD Town Hall on August 19th at the center, which is like 11th in Minneapolis. So that will be at 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. Hope to see you at all of those.
Vice Mayor Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask the city manager if we could possibly have a workshop, maybe September, October, on Second Light and how it relates to housing and what's being done, all the way from actual what's being done to the marketing and media for it. I think the meeting this morning was very interesting and enlightening, and I think that information would be good for all of council members and the public.
I will tag along that request by also asking for an update regarding the ordinance on illegal camping and the amount of trash as well as orders that have been placed through the Report and Issue app. We need to see that data, and I think it would be a good time to see it in full. It was implemented earlier this year, and so I think that we have at least half a year's worth of information that can be shared during that workshop. And lastly, Vice Mayor Johnston.
Just to tag on to that too, I don't think anybody wants to just sweep the streets and throw everybody into the MAC. There has to be a housing plan, and this morning, great plans, pilot plans on getting people directly to housing, because everybody doesn't want to go to a shelter. So I think there's some good alternatives they're working on. Housing Department's doing a great job. Sally and her team doing a great job. Seems to be successful, but we'll have to have more data on it. But I think an update on that would be really good too. And it interfaces directly with enforcement. But we have to make sure we're ready for enforcement, and we're just not throwing everybody into the MAC, so.
I see no further comments. I'm just going to say that today was National Purple Heart Day, and the Veterans Memorial Park had its first commemoration at the park itself. And so one quick question I have, really, it's for the city manager. I know that it's a partnership with veterans. Parks helps maintain this park as well. But I have seen that it does still need some love, including graffiti removal on some of the plaques. So I would really like to see that park, the Veterans Memorial Park, really taken care of, especially when it comes to some graffiti on the plaques. I see no further comments. With that, I will move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I see none. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. The two people who would like to stay can stay, but it passes 5-2. Have a nice evening.